I know the meeting was scheduled for 6:30. We're starting a little bit late, but we will run the meeting efficiently. And I heard the mayor will be joining us, but just to make sure that we get through the agenda on time, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting since we have a physical quorum. Thank you all. With that being said, Madam Clerk, can you take a roll call?
Good evening. Council Member Collazo,
Present.
Council Member Garcia,
Present.
Council Member Ruano,
Present.
Council Member Fernandez,
Present.
Council Member Dieguez, I believe is online, but he is absent right now. Vice Mayor, Council Member Dieguez, can you hear us? Well, I see him. I see him in the screen. I can see him in the big TV. He's connecting. Vice Mayor Alvarez is absent, and I believe Mayor Sid is on his way, but right now he's absent. You have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm going to ask everybody to please rise, and I'm going to invite Pastor Juan Sancho from Elevate Church to lead us in prayer. And immediately following the prayer, one of my colleagues has asked for personal privilege regarding what's happening across the world in Israel right now.
Well, God, we come before you with gratitude. We thank you for being God of love, who's with us now in this room. You never leave us or forsake us. Your grace has brought us safe thus far. Your grace will lead us home, Lord. We thank you for making each of us in this room, every person we meet, every citizen of the city and every city in your image with dignity, infinite worth. We thank you for the calling you've given every one of us to be good stewards of your creation, to love our neighbors, ourselves. We also pray for what's happening in the Middle East. We pray right now, Lord, have your way in that area, Lord. Let there be peace between Israel and Hamas. We pray for those families, Lord, that are suffering, those innocent civilians, Lord. I just pray, Lord, that there will be common sense and people to just things to de-escalate and for the bloodshed to end. And today I want to thank you, God, for these servants here, the mayor, the city manager, our city staff, our city council members. I give thanks by the way of service. They have chosen to take on behalf of all of us here. We have come in this room tonight as complex human beings, carrying burdens, carrying joy, hope, trusting that you alone can hold us together, oh God, in your love and peace. Help us, Lord, to trust you more than our fears, more than our wounds, even our accomplishments. May we lean on your everlasting arms tonight. God, in your word, you make it clear that your expectation, those who sit in places of authority. In Psalm 72, hear the prayer of the king. Indulge the king with your justice, O God, the royal son with your righteousness. May he judge your people in righteousness and your afflicted one with justice. May he defend the wicked. May he defend the afflicted, along the people. Save the children of the needy. May he crush the oppressor. For the king will deliver the needy who cry out, the afflicted who have no one to help. He take pity on the wicked, the needy, save the needy from death. He will rescue them from the oppressed and violent, for precious is their blood in his sight. That of the prophet Jeremiah in chapter 22, you remind us that your blessing came on kings who defended the rights of the poor and needy, because it isn't what it means to know me, declares the Lord. We remember that Apostle Paul wrote to Christians in Rome, his teaching, those who are in authority are first and foremost your servants. That honoring you and doing your will is their highest purpose. That any portion of power they enjoy is given by you and can be taken away. So we pray that you be glorified tonight through the decisions of this City of Miami Lakes Council. We pray that we may have eyes to see how lives are all connected and how our common good is upheld when we listen and respond to those vulnerable along us. We pray that your kingdom will come in Miami Lakes as it is in heaven through your power working in each of these servants. May your truth be revealed. May your light shine brighter. That may the voice of those silenced may be heard louder and clearer. Defend their cause, oh God, through this governing body tonight. We pray for wisdom, for strength and courage to do what's right and good for all citizens. May we put our interests of others above our own. May we act with the love for common good. May we be good neighbors, recognizing your image in every person here. We thank you, Lord, again for this council, our mayor, our city staff, our first responders, our hospital staff, and all those who work in this place. We call home a wonderful city named Miami Lakes. In the name of Jesus, whose perfect love set us free from all fears. Amen.
Please remain standing. I want to turn the floor over to my colleague, Councilman Fernandez.
Please join us in a moment of silence for the people of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you. Please remain standing. Councilwoman Morano, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may take your seats. I believe we have a video presentation by Honorable Ariel Fernandez for the Better You Minute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members, residents, and staff of the town that is growing beautifully, Miami Lakes. Over the last few days, we've all been troubled by the images that we've seen out of Israel. We have seen how powerful hatred can be, but we've also seen how much love can overcome that hatred. Every day, we need to take advantage of the opportunity to look into ourselves and see if hatred is overcoming us. Are the decisions that we're making based out of love or hate? If they're being made out of hate, we need to make sure to stop them. Hate can be very powerful. It can overcome our ability to think, and it can overcome our ability to be part of a prosperous community. Love, on the other hand, is even more powerful. It can show us the light and overcome that hatred. Let's take a moment every day and think about the decisions that we've made. Let's think about whether it's hatred that has been guiding our decisions or love. And let's make sure that at the end of every single day, love overcomes.
Thank you very much. On to the order of business. Any additions, deletions, deferrals? I do have two items that I want to start off with. I want to pull out of consent item 10F. I just want to discuss one point on that item. I also want to move item 14C, which is a quasi judicial item, prior to consent, if that's okay, or right after the consent calendar, whichever one you guys would prefer.
Okay. I'd also like to pull from consent item 10G.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilman Dieguez.
I'm going to go ahead and defer my item on the NSC elections. I'm working with the attorney on some privacy issues related to that item. So for the time being, I'm going to postpone that one. So I'm pulling it from our items.
Thank you, Councilman. What
So
item
the-
is that?
So the item that was deferred is 14E, NSD elections by Councilmember Dieguez.
Councilman, I think you may have said 14C when you actually want to move 13C, or maybe I misheard it.
And maybe you're correct. 13C is the quasi judicial item.
Right.
13C.
Okay.
So the quasi judicial is going to be prior to consent calendar or after?
Either or, whatever. There are several items that we're pulling for discussion, so maybe prior would be the best way to go.
I'll
Any-
move it.
Motion's there a second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. Thank you so much. On to public comments.
So good afternoon. All comments or questions from this attending public shall be directed to the mayor in a courteous tone, and to ensure the orderly conduct and efficiency of the meeting, public comments shall be limited to 3 minutes maximum per person. If you want to participate in public comments, you're welcome to just approach the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, members. Good afternoon, good evening, members of the council. Mr. Manager, I am here because I want to find out
A name,
when our contract for fire rescue is going to be renewed, and if there's anything we can do to make changes before that. Mr. Manager?
can you please state your name and address for the record?
I've got Maria Kramer, 14580 English Road. Sorry, I haven't been here in a long time. I forgot.
Yeah, we don't have a contract for fire rescue. We participate in the fire district. So it's very complicated for a local government to opt out of the fire district. So the entire county would have to allow us to opt out.
And I'm not
It's
suggesting that.
charter. It's a
This is
charter
what I
obligation.
consider opting out of the fire district. Let me tell you what happened. 2 months and 2 days ago, I fell and broke my hip. And fire rescue came and they insisted on taking me to Palmetto General. And I said that I would not go to Palmetto General under any conditions. I called Nelson Rodriguez and my brother, who are former firefighters, and they said that if it is not critical, if it is not trauma, and they are not overloaded with traffic, they should take me. Instead, they would not. He was telling me that I was risking my life for a broken hip and made me sign a release. I made them put them in my neighbor's car, and I was in agony as she drove me to Jackson West. Thank God she took me to Jackson West, because the surgery that they did is a brand new surgery. The guy who did it did a fellowship at Duke. And the next day I walked. In 2 weeks, I dumped my walker and I am fully back 100%. I can do yoga and it's been 2 months. Usually that's a 4 to 6 month recovery. No one in the north end of town does that surgery. I went to Jackson West because I know they have the cutting edge procedures. That should be my right as a citizen. If we want to go to another hospital that is a reasonable distance, 10 miles, like what we have when we go to Broward, to the memorial or to Jackson West, that should be our right. I have never been envious of Doral because Miami Lakes is so much more beautiful than Doral. But my God, they have Jackson West, and now they're going to have the Towers, and we have nothing. That is why when they were talking about Mount Sinai, I was begging them to come. So can we request some kind of letter saying that if those things that are in writing now are in place, that our residents should be taken to an alternate hospital? All of your families and all of you are at risk. My neighbor almost died because they took him to Palmetto and they said it was a lung issue. They resuscitated him. He came back. When he went to see his cardiologist 10 days later, it wasn't. He had an artery that was 85%. He could have died. So if you guys want to put your family at risk, don't do anything. We deserve better, and so do you.
Maria, there is some good news. They broke ground last week and I don't know if it was mentioned, but the Baptist standalone emergency room broke ground a week ago. So that's under construction. So hence, if somebody needs an ambulance, once that's built and open, if somebody needs an ambulance in Miami Lakes, they're going to be taken to the Baptist standalone emergency room. That is getting Yep, they take you to Mount Sinai, takes you to the beach, they stabilize you, and then the same thing Baptist takes you to the main. But the good thing is, God forbid, there's a heart attack or a stroke, they stabilize. Yep. 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 Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, Maria, we're on it.
Good evening. My name is Sean Schwinghammer. I reside at 14501 Dade Pine Avenue, a 30-year resident of Miami Lakes. I'm going to read as quickly as I can to meet my 3 minutes. I applaud the council for the many big successes you've been achieving lately, reducing our tax burden. I love some of the infrastructure construction projects and the different events, but I'm here to complain today because about what I think is forgotten, in my opinion, woefully forgotten, about the most important thing in town. It's been forgotten by our leadership. I confess to being an old curmudgeon, but unlike anyone in this council, I've conceived and constructed many communities throughout the Southern United States. I've managed and operated communities throughout the Southern United States. I know what it takes to keep a community worth interest, to make it look good, and to make it something that people a place where people want to live for the rest of their lives. And it has to do with the way the community looks and it values itself. I think our town is really starting to fail, and I think horribly, keeping up the values of the original creators of Miami Lakes. Our town looks bad. I live on the east side, and I've been complaining about this for some time. And since the buck stops with the council, I've come to you after I have some of my outreaches to staff have failed to be heard, and I've failed to be listened to. And there are many things everyone could talk about. I mean, there was a shopping cart on the middle of Queen Palm today, which that happens, and there's garbage strewn along the streets, and we're seeing a demographic change throughout the community surrounding us, and that's affecting us as well with garbage, and people are lowering their standards all over. The only way to react to that, as Coral Gables had to do 40 years ago, is to have a higher level of standard than the areas around you that are deteriorating or just not keeping up, or the demographics have changed. We have not been doing that. The people who created our town, our community, understood that when the town was created with the understanding that everyone has to give up a little to make a community better. We understood when our town was first founded that a road is a public room that everyone has to works together to decorate. But you can have a well-looking room like a living room, or you can have a dorm room, and that's what I'm seeing now. I'm seeing that everything from red reflectors on the streets, on people in front of people's yards to protect their yards. They look horrible. Trash cans in front of houses 24 hours a day, and they're never moved. Illegal docks that have been built out and building electricity and water on illegal docks throughout the town, hedges all the way down to the edge of the dock. People when their hedges go 8 feet high, fences that are 8 feet high, sheds that are over 6 feet, when every shed in Miami Lakes has to be under 6 feet, and on and on and on. But most importantly, the issues that come in front of the town aren't handled well. Most recently and I'm gonna lose my time, most recently on Miami Lakeway South, now Rita Lee Way, the town gave a building permit to someone whose house abuts Miami Lakeway and is on a lake. They gave a building permit to a fence, violating the setback requirements, not going to P&Z for a variance, when only 2 months earlier, another house, it was a lakefront house, had to get a variance and went to P&Z and was properly negotiated. The town has not been holding up the standards from the history of the town. I have a long list of it. I have sent PowerPoints to people in the council. I've asked to take people on tours. I've reached out to the manager. I've reached out to the building official, and I was blown off on this recent issue when I asked to appeal a building department decision, which was completely illegal, and violated the history and standards and covenants of this town. And no one's looking at that. So I ask you to please consider that, and I'll send my letters and follow-up comments to everyone. But it's not going well, and unless you change it, it won't get better. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And if anybody else needs time to finish their thoughts, we'll allow that time as well.
Good evening, council, mayor and council. JC Fernandez, 7963 Northwest 163rd Terrace. I didn't come here for that, but I do agree with Mr. Schwinghammer. I'm here to support the project for the Palma del Lago.
You'll have to
The
speak
site plan?
during the public hearing because everybody needs to get sworn in.
I'll do that.
Okay, perfect. Anyone else wishing to speak in public comments? Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Christ Francois, And one of the most ongoing issues in Miami Lakes is public transportation. Some people do not own a car, and sometimes the bus come late, all of that. I think one of the solution is, I don't know, to create a website or an app where the people could plan their trips in advance. Like that, the bus could come on time, and the people could make their trips. Where are they going? Where are they heading to on time? So, yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you bringing it up because I know I've heard from other folks. I know the county had removed some routes not too long ago. So I know public transportation has been a challenge for folks here in our community. So
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for those comments. Is our transportation manager here? Do you mind if you could talk to Ms. Francois, please? Okay. I don't know if you want to chat with her real quick to let her know what you're working on. Okay. Okay.
Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your services. Angelo Garcia, 16441 Northwest 77th Place. What brings me here today is actually on a little project that I've been working on. I'm not completely finished on it, but I just wanted to bring you the beginning of the project. It took me a little over a month to get a hold of this Play-Doh plastic root barrier. It's easier for me to talk to the governor to get this Play-Doh root barrier that is supposed to have some type of pepper, cayenne pepper, to not have the roots get close to it. Maybe one of the experts here that knows about it can tell me about it. My neighbor actually has a lovely tree called a Brazilian pepper tree, which is an invasive tree, really bad to society. And he's actually allowed it to intrude into my property. This is the baby part of the root. I just cut it. So imagine in 40 years what that root is going to be doing. It'll probably reach your house, Mr. Mayor. So it's a joke. I thought you were going to laugh. But anyways,
I'm still just
Yeah, you're
really
trying to
interested in
figure out-
knowing the cayenne pepper on the root barrier.
No, I'm very serious. This is
No,
this
to
is-
me
this
has,
is what actually one of your workers in the town told me that this has some type of magical powder on it that will repel the root. Is that not true, Danny Angel? Sure. No, seriously, that's what I was told. So, I mean, that's a joke. You put this in the ground, as much as it rains in Florida, that cayenne pepper's washing out. So my recommendation is, I don't know how much we're paying for this, but this is a joke. This can cost us a lot less expensive, probably free, because I know a lot of people that will be willing to donate them to us. This would be a real serious root barrier. I mean, Hyundai, no air conditioner, no power steering. Ferrari. I mean, you know. So what I'm trying to get to is,
no, and it's definitely, we're looking at being resilient and recycling, right? So like folks that are getting impact windows, we can use that.
you got it.
Yep.
You got it. And I'd be one of the ones that'd be willing to donate it to the town and give them so we could use them. So let's think about what we're doing. You like the idea?
Mr. Manager, who can he coordinate with on the donation and other,
Do you guys have the picture that
Je-
Gina sent you on
Ye-
the pictures of the route? Can you?
Jeremy, if you can, just so you can inspect, you can come up.
Yeah. Can he come up and talk? Jeremy, would you please come up and let's have a little conversation?
And we'll wrap it up.
That's actually a baby tree coming into my yard, and he just planted it last year. I want to see it in 40 years. Do you see this holding? Actually, next time I come, I will bring you with my dolly a root that intruded my property in Miami Gardens. I'm gonna need somebody to help me with that dolly. It is a monster. You think if this little Play-Doh will hold it?
once again, I'll go ahead and I'll bring the same information that we brought from other entities, both in the market and other entities that are in environmental, horticulture and arbor, to provide the same information on what is the current status for using root barriers. The biggest thing to note that I will mention is existing trees and adding root barriers versus new installs and putting a root barrier at the principal point of installing the tree is going to play a huge role in what we're able to deter. But like I said, I'll go ahead and I'll bring that information to the resident again.
No, but can that work with new trees?
We'll take a look at it as far as installing and being able to recycle and seeing if there's any. What I want to make sure there's no harm that's going to come soil or anything by putting the metals and so forth. But we'll take a look at it.
Won't hurt it. Always, but anyways, you guys should look into that cayenne pepper. That special cayenne pepper.
What was the other tree was a Brazilian pepper tree?
Oh, it is. It is.
Okay,
Brazilian, they know what a Brazilian pepper is.
pepper tree, okay.
So, and not only that, there's other trees that our neighbors are planting right next to our fences that but let's forget about that. Let's talk about, when I start back on the trail, I'm gonna continue what I started with the sidewalks. I don't know if this young lady that came to talk, I don't know if she fell, but I know that we've had numerous people fall in our town due to root problems. So keep this in mind. If anybody wants to talk about it, I'll be more, because in 3 minutes, I can't talk to you in 3 minutes, what it's taken me 3 months.
No, Mr. Manager, if you could set that up for the next Neighborhood Improvement Committee meeting. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angelo.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Santiago Rico and my address is 795 West 68th Street. And what I'm here for is not a concern, not to report an issue or anything, but it's actually a little bit of a request. So what I think the town of Miami Lakes should do is, I think that they should add more indoor basketball courts, you know, because I bet that there's a lot of people like me, young or old, you know, any age group or whatever, that would agree with the same, you know, thing. So, you know, they're way better than, you know, for example, an outside court, you know, like they're better quality, more advanced, and just like in general, like more people would rather play on an indoor one than an outdoor one. So, yeah, and even for like people can even lose money because, like, for example, if you play on an outside one, the material for an outside one, you know, can mess up people's shoes and they can cost them, you know, a good amount of money to get new shoes because it ruins the material of their shoes. Rather on an indoor one, that's not really that much of a problem. And you know, there's many other reasons why. Obviously, a indoor one is way better than an outdoor one. You know, the AC, you know, just overall, it's a better option to have. So, and yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you. Good point. That's a generational battle in our community with those issues. Anyone else wishing to speak in public comments? Welcome.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Pedro Herrera. 825216 Northwest 164th Street. I came here to talk about the importance of having more lit street lights during the night. I think that it provides not only a safer environment, but it looks prettier for the city, and it can differentiate from other towns around here that they also have very dark areas during the night. You can see by looking outside that the lights give a very nice appearance to the street. And also, as owner of a dog, I like to walk my dog at night peacefully and, you know, have some lights for, you know, feel safe. Also, if I want to go with friends and everything, do it in a peacefully manner. I know that, I don't know if you use pressure sodium bulbs or LED. What I would like to propose is to use solar powered street light poles, so we can not only reduce carbon, so we can be more eco-friendly, but also to reduce financial costs in lighting streets. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Tony, if you could talk to this gentleman about our lighting study, or Omar about the lighting study. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Anyone else online?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luis Arias. I just moved here a couple months ago, and I would like to bring a table the problem that we have to face as a community. Maybe it's not it doesn't have that big impact, but for me, it's like causing me a lot of troubles. It's like this plague of iguanas around Miami Lakes, and many friends and people that I know, including myself, they have concerns because there are just like so many iguanas around, and they are eating their plants of their backyards. And also, you know, since they are harmful animals, they don't really bother me or something, but they can also bring salmonella with them. So it's something that I would like to bring to council to see if we can, you know, talk to human resources in order to bring them and humanly relocate them to their natural habitat. So yeah, so I mean, also I have some other solutions like buying scarecrows or plastic bags. I made a research which it says that if you put them in the backyard of your house, they get scared. So yeah, that's all I have to say, and I hope we can work together as a community. Thank you so much and have a wonderful night.
What were the two recommendations that you had?
Oh, scarecrows and also plastic bags. Yeah, those are like homemade remedies, but hopefully it will work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Manager, is there anything that we do for the iguanas? I know they had an impact on our canal stabilization project and different things. Is that, what information can you provide?
Yeah, animal control is completely overseen by Miami-Dade County. We have put out information that's provided to us from Miami-Dade County about what an individual resident can and cannot do for an iguana that's located on their property.
Thank you. Any other public comments or anyone online?
Mayor, I don't see anyone online. Well, I do. Take it back. I see a Mr. Brian. I don't know if you're here for public comments online. Just unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record, Mr. Brian. And in the meantime, I do have a written public comment from Ms. Bonnie Sintron. I understand that she sent it to all of you, but I have to acknowledge it for the record in regards to overdevelopment and overpopulation in our town. So let the record reflect that. And again, if Mr. Brian is here for public comments online, please unmute yourself. If not, I don't see anyone else for public comments online.
Thank you. If there's anyone else, please let us know. If not, public comments is closed. We're moving on to appointments. We have two appointments, Miriam Ochoa to the Sports Hall of Fame Committee by myself, and Irene Gutierrez to the Neighborhood Services District, Royal Oaks, by Councilmember Tony Fernandez. Are any of those two folks here today? I don't see Miriam and I don't see Irene, but thank you both for serving and giving back to your community. You all help us create a great town. We're moving on. Before the consent calendar, I was told that there was an item pulled up, which was 13C. You all wanted to take that before consent, which was a quasi judicial hearing. I'll read out the process as to how we're going to move forward on the quasi judicial hearing. Our town attorney will read a preliminary statement at the beginning of the quasi judicial public hearing agenda, which shall outline the procedures to be followed. We'll then take the applicant, respondent, witnesses, town staff, And all participants looking to speak, we're going to collectively swear them in. Then we'll move on from that. But first, I'm going to hand it over to the attorney so he can read a preliminary statement in regards to our quasi judicial public hearing.
Please be advised that the following items on the board's agenda are quasi judicial in nature. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the board to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Any person presenting documents to the board should provide the town clerk with a minimum of 10 copies. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedure may be obtained from the clerk. What's going to be heard is a resolution of the Town Council of Town of Miami Lakes, Florida, pertaining to a request in accordance with Section 13-304H of the Town of Miami Lakes Land Development Code for a site plan approval as provided at Exhibit A for the properties located on the corner of 87th Avenue and 162nd Street, as more particularly described at Exhibit B, bearing folios 32-2015-046-0010-0160, 32-2015-047-00170, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for findings, providing for violation of conditions, providing for appeal, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. At this moment, the applicant, respondent, witnesses, town staff, and all participants looking to speak on this item, please stand up. You'll be collectively sworn in by our town clerk.
Do you promise to say the truth and only the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to open up public comments first, then we're going to move on to the staff presentation. Then the applicant presents, then we'll go on from there. Public comments specifically on 13C and only if you were sworn in.
Again, JC Fernandez, 7963 Northwest 163rd Terrace. The site plan conforms to the neighborhood. It's a beautiful project. I don't think there's anything that you guys are looking at that, aside from just what you're approving, this was approved a long time ago. But I fully support it. I am here also to speak on behalf of the Royal Oaks HOA. There was a talk about possibly opening up an egress or an ingress on 87th Avenue, and the HOA opposes it. We don't want either one, whether, if it's through construction for trucks coming in and out, and as if they have an employee that's there, monitoring that, there's no problem at all. But for a permanent thing, no, we're afraid that if we leave an exit only, which I heard we're talking about it, that we would have the same issue that we have at all our gates, that the arms are broken and they're not repaired, and then we wouldn't have control over who is coming in and out. So that's it. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak in this quasi judicial hearing? Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, public hearing portion is closed. We're moving on to the town staff's presentation as they will present a brief synopsis of the application.
Good evening. Am I on? Am I on? Yes. Can you hear me? There you are. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to do this very brief. It's a simple site plan approval at this point. These 37 lots were platted in 2004 and 2008. I know that the applicant has a gorgeous presentation that they want to put forward. Obviously, staff is recommending approval. There's several conditions that I have enumerated on the staff report, which I now enter into the record. Obviously, I will be available afterwards for questions on pointed things. Remember that if any conditions that are discussed in addition to these 13, or if you want to remove any conditions, this is something that I will need to take careful notes of. So please bear that in mind as you discuss. And thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to let the applicant do their thing.
You don't want staff, council to ask any questions at this moment? You want to wait? You said till,
I would like them to do their presentation
First.
first, just so that we have that out of the way, and then we can just all respond to questions
got
quickly.
it, okay. Applicant will make their presentation.
Good evening. I do have a presentation. Madam Clerk, thank you. Mayor, Council, Administration, my name is Melissa Tapenez. It's a pleasure to be before you. Law office is at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, Miami. I'm here representing GT Homes, and joining me is Doug Brock, Scott Pizzoli, Autumn Sarro, as well as our project engineer, Oscar Rabina, and my associate, Benjamin Sherry. Together, we're here to respectfully request your approval of a proposed site plan to allow the development of an upscale, single-family enclave within the Royal Oaks District that is consistent with the Dunhill Isle and Dunhill Cove plats, as well as the high-quality residential character of the surrounding community. Let's see if this works. Is this the clicker? Maybe. Is it your computer that clicks? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Move this out of the way. Thank you. All right, excellent. So you're very familiar with the site. It's about 17 acres of land just south of 162nd Street and just east of 87th Avenue. It's shown on the map. The land use is low density residential and the zoning is RU1. As was mentioned, the plats were approved back in 2008, and that's when they were recorded. It's simply 16 lots along 162nd Street and 21 lots along the cul-de-sac. The 37 lots are between 7,700 square feet and 18,400 square feet. We were incorporated into the Royal Oaks Special Taxing District also in 2008. That went before this town council as well as the county commission. And accordingly, the property is provided with all the benefits of the district, such as security services, including the unmanned gates and the license plate image capturing technology. So the project before you is 37 estate style residences with 5 different models, both 1 and 2 stories. There's 10 distinct floor plans between 2,400 square feet and 5,800 square feet. We're also providing the opportunity for 4 custom built homes and lot sizes between that 7,700 and 18,400 square feet. There are 148 parking spaces, lush landscaping throughout, as well as a dog park connected to the enclave through a bridge, as well as we're proposing an additional special taxing district to provide additional security for the aisle portion of the property. Notably, we reached out to numerous communities within the immediate area through their management company. We had a meeting with specifically the Royal Oaks Association, and on September 28th, we hosted a developer information workshop right here at the council where we encouraged community members to ask any questions, and we had a very favorable outcome to that meeting. So this is the rendered land site plan in front of you. It proposes no variances. It's all consistent with the original intent of the plats and the previously approved opportunity for controlled growth within the town. The project will help meet the town and county's demands for additional single-family residences to a site that has been underutilized for years. And as you can see, the project's proposed common spaces include that landscaped entry, as well as additional security, tree-lined rights-of-ways, pedestrian-friendly crosswalks, landscape medians, and that community open space with that dog park. Here you see a detailed site plan provided for the platted lot lines, including the existing top of bank and the areas to be filled. As was mentioned, due to the passage of time, there has been erosions on the waterfront lots that will be filled as part of the building permitting process. This is the site plan that shows the 4 lots, 18, 19, 22, and 23, which will be the subject of custom-built homes. We'll move forward with the administrative site plan review as part of the building permit process. But all the models distributed throughout the site are distributed according to the conceptual appropriateness, the lot sizes, as well as the prospective owner's preferences. Here are certain renderings of the various elevations with the distinct floor plans. As I mentioned, there's 5 different models and 10 distinct floor plans. Each floor plan offers flexibility for multi-generational lifestyles, open living areas, casita options, as well as bonus rooms and other customizable options. So here is the transitional Palma 1, the Santa Barbara version of Palma 2, known as Casa Lago, the transitional version of that same Casa Lago. This is the Santa Barbara version of the Palma 3, which is Casa Mall. The transitional version of Casa Mar, I'm sorry, I'm going between English pronunciation and Spanish pronunciation. This is the Palma 4, Casa del Sol, the Santa Barbara version. And this is the transitional version of that same model. And this is the Palma 5 Casa Royale as in the transitional elevation. And these are some neighborhood views showing the streets, trees. The entrance feature, the landscape hedging in compliance with the condition along Northwest 87th Avenue, providing for that 6-foot concrete wall. And this is an aerial photograph of what the neighborhood will look like with the 37 homes. And you can see Madden's Hammock in the distance. In conclusion, what we would respectfully request your approval this evening. As I mentioned, this project implements the town's vision for a high-quality, custom-built, architecturally diverse 1- and 2-story residences on varying lot sizes. We have a lot of excitement in the community, as I'm sure you've heard, to have this new product type. So as such, we respectfully request your approval under section 13-304 of the code. Of course, our entire team is available for any questions that you may have. And we thank especially your staff at the community development for answering all our questions and getting us to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Council questions of the applicant. We have Councilman Garcia, and then I got a couple questions as well. So go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for investing in our town and thinking of us. This is something, continued investment in the town is very important to us. A couple questions that I have for you as far as swale size. As you know, we're a Tree City USA and we take pride in our trees. And some of the issues we've had is lack of vision when it comes to swale size and root barriers placed at the appropriate time, which is when you first plant the tree. Are there any, I don't see under the town conditions, but is there anything that the developer can do to foresee that? Because in the next, maybe not now, but in about 10, 20 years, eventually the town's going to have to start paying for some sidewalk repair, and we're trying to prevent, right? So is there anything that the developer can do to add tree barriers, root barriers? And also the question is, how big are the swales size that you're not on 85th? Well, on 85th, I know it's smaller, but around the neighborhood, how big are the swale size between the sidewalk and the homes in order to plant trees, and what type of trees you plan to plant? If you have that information, I would love.
So the way we've addressed that is we have a landscape architect, Devin Sejas, who's been meeting with your town staff. And what is most, it was actually one of the most impressive parts of our plan was how we're bringing forth the landscaping component, not only in the dog park, but throughout the site. So I believe that in most of the locations, the swale are about 7 feet. I just want to verify, but I believe that that's the case. And as far as the root protection of the sidewalks. The way we're handling that is by providing the kind of trees that could actually take place at that location. Where it would be important to provide for additional barriers, those will be provided. But that will be something that will work with your town administration at the time of building permit. But I can tell you that the selection of trees was with that in mind. We know that oak trees specifically can be problematic.
Yeah, I would ask, and yes, go ahead, sir.
Hello, folks. Doug Brook, GTUSA. Real quickly, before I answer your question, sir, I want to thank your staff and the town for being so helpful to us as newcomers in your community, helping us through this process. We appreciate it, and your entire staff should be applauded for them working with us the way that they have.
Susanna didn't break her finger, did she?
No, actually, I was exercising this morning and had a mishap, but
she's little but tough.
Right. To answer your question, as developers, we have a lot of experience landscaping in areas where root barriers are required. Street trees such as oaks, they will have root barriers. I think those would probably be the most problematic, especially in, I think you called them swales. I would call them a tree lawn, and that is the distance or the horizontal distance between the back of the sidewalk and the curb, right? And our engineer has confirmed that that's about 7 feet of distance, which is more than enough distance for street trees. I've planted them in 3-foot tree lines, which gets really tight. But 7 feet is a great horizontal separation between the two hard surfaces, and we will do root barriers on those street trees.
I appreciate that. And I noticed on your website, you have 50 years of experience, and you started in Canada. Could you talk a little bit about your experience and your?
Sure. So our entire team that's here today, including myself, we're not Canadian. Our company is Canadian backed. My experience is in the state of Florida. I've been developing and building since the mid-90s in the state of Florida. I've also built in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. I think our development guy has worked on golf courses. He's built golf courses. He's also worked for WCI Communities in years past when they were out in Parkland. And we've got between us close to 100 years of experience.
Yeah.
Our own staff that's here locally, not just at this meeting room, but also up in Fort Lauderdale in our office.
Yeah.
The group that's out of Canada, it's a great story. The patriarch emigrated to Toronto from Italy 60 years ago. He was a Finnish carpenter, and a couple of accountants that he was building cabinets for noticed his his carpentry skills, and they offered to back him to build a house. And he built one house 55 years ago, and from that he built this empire in Toronto. In 2018, he wanted to start an ancillary business down here. And at the time I was working with Equity Suitors to do a couple projects up in Palm Beach County, and his group was one of them. And we formed a partnership here.
Is that Treasure Hill, Green Park and Treasure Hill?
So it's Green Park, the patriarch of Green Park. It has been in business 55 years. The president of Treasure Hill is a family friend. The two of them decided to invest money in Florida, provide capital in Florida, and we've formed a partnership here in Florida, and that is GTUSA.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, you say you're going to put root barriers where the oak trees are supposed to, or you're going to plant, which is, thank you so much. Is there anything that, no offense, we can have just as part of a condition to this? Maybe we can add a condition, one of the conditions to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. Yeah.
If we're going to do it, no no harm putting in
Yeah,
writing.
I appreciate that. The residents will love that. A couple other questions I have as far as park access to the dog park.
Mhm.
No, you can stay there. Thank you. The dog, access to it's a public road, right? How are we addressing, is this is a public park? Or is this just for the residents?
It's a HOA owned park.
For the HOA?
And so the residents of that HOA will have access
Okay.
to that dog park.
All right. Okay, excellent, excellent. And I see you do a lot for sustainability. I mean, I know you guys have led the industry in some of that when it comes to your projects. Can you talk a little bit about the sustainability aspects of this new construction? Are there any choices when it comes to the homes for example, if they want solar power prefab? And it's a lot easier doing a prefab than postfab. Do you give those kind of options? And you talk a little bit about the materials you use in building this home and the sustainability aspect of the homes and things like that.
Sure. So everything we're building is to the most current Florida building code. So our HVAC systems are going to be 17 to 18 SEER using the appropriate coolant. With respect to your question on solar panels, we have no plans to provide that option. The problem that home builders have, production home builders have with that option is lenders don't like to lend on it. Right. And so if we had an all cash buyer that came in and said, I want solar panels, we would sell them that option. But if it was somebody that was financing, we couldn't do that.
I understand. I just think such a virgin land, right?
Right.
37 units is a perfect size for like for example, community that you would create perhaps to show your other a showcase, for example. It'll be an opportunity to add these kinds of 21st century technology to your community since it's so small. Just keep in mind, this would be a perfect place for that to show, and then you can have it as a showcase for future potential clients that can see this and see what's going on. I think it'll be a great opportunity for your company, maybe to look and see if there's an option to have those kind of options for your clients.
Right.
Or at least provide the education part of it, how
Right.
they can do it, to work alongside a contractor that might help them do it after the fact.
Right.
You know.
So aside from the solar panels, other materials we're using open cell foam insulation in the attics as opposed to blown in insulation, much higher energy efficiencies. We are using LED lighting. We are using low VOC paints, carpets. What else? I mentioned the high SEER HVAC, low volume water faucets, toilets, et cetera.
Yeah, and they're smart homes too. You're adding a lot of technology, I see.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
all right. The last question I have, there are certain homes that are close to the setback when it comes to the lakes. In the future, residents might want to build pools. They would have to get a variance for that. So is there, as far as just being, open to the future clients, transparency, are there any properties that if they want to build a pool that falls under our rules and regulations, that they would have to get a variance? Are they being told that in the future, hey, listen, you might have to get a variance? That variance may or may not be approved. Are we being just as transparent as possible to the size of the setback and the possibility of building pools in certain property? I know there's 5 or 6 properties that have that issue, not all of them, but some of them.
So it's been my experience as a builder, the best way to meet expectations is to manage expectations, and that requires disclosure and transparency. All of the lots that we submitted with the home plans we submitted will fit a pool, but you have to qualify that. What size is the pool, right? Our pools are 12 feet wide or deep, and so they will fit that pool. If somebody wanted a larger pool, that would be done during our permitting process, our design process, and would be disclosed to them then that they would need a variance.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant, Councilman Collazo? And then Councilman Diegues, if you're still online, you can jump in if need be, after Councilman Collazo.
Thank you. My only question was the matter that was brought forth with public comments, and I've received several questions about that specific issue from the residents of Royal Oak. So can you talk to me a little bit about construction staging? What's the entrance, the egress, the ingress of heavy machinery, and will that be going through the neighborhoods, or will there be a construction exit or entrance added that will be manned during the construction process?
Thank you, Councilman Collazo. What we discussed with the Royal Oaks Homeowners Association was utilizing 87th Avenue for construction only. It would be manned and secured, obviously closed every afternoon in compliance with the construction phasing plan, as well as the MOT that would be required in order to move forward. We do understand that some residents have mentioned that they would like to have egress only out of 87th Avenue. What we've told everyone is that we will respect the council's decision on that. We've obviously acquired the site and are moving forward knowing that there is no entrance on 87th Avenue. So we would basically stay out of that discussion. We do think that, and as does the HOA members that we've spoken to at Royal Oaks, that it makes sense to utilize 87th Avenue for construction to avoid the construction vehicles going through the interior of the neighborhood. So that's something that we've discussed with the town administration. And as long as what was discussed with us was, as long as we were very transparent and open about that desire, that it would be acceptable to the town. And I appreciate the opportunity to mention it here. We did mention it at our meetings as well as our developer workshop.
I appreciate that. And yeah, I've heard the similar concerns. And I don't know if we would like to codify that as well, maybe as part of this approval process, or do you want flexibility in that, Mr. Manager and the town staff?
Yeah, we'll work it out, I think, with town staff, exactly what's going to be the right approach. And obviously we'll make sure that the Royal Oaks HOA is involved in that conversation.
Well, again, and I know that there was a gentleman that was speaking here on behalf of the HOA. What I've heard from the residents is they do not want that 87th Avenue opened up for regular traffic. So if it's a construction staging only type of thing, I want to make sure that that's something that we're consistent with, and also with the messaging, making sure that the residents are very, very clear that that exit is not going to be opened for ingress, egress, or any other purpose other than that staging. So once we get that, I would like to memorialize that as part of the agreement, just to make sure that the residents are okay with that as well, if that's the intent. So
We would accept a condition that 87th Avenue only be utilized for construction traffic.
perfect. I'm good with that. Thank you so much.
Any other questions of the applicant? If not, I have three questions for you. The first one has two parts. So one of the biggest challenges I have with any site plan approval is that we approve these things. There's great folks that present stuff. You get vested rights. You turn around and you sell it to somebody else. You guys are planning to build it, right?
Yes, we're already in for building permit, and I believe there's a 1-year limitation, at least in the recommendations. So that issue of yours has been addressed by the
Got it. So
administration.
it addressed both. So you have a year, and you guys are looking to start this as soon as
Immediately,
possible.
we're in for permit.
No, I love hearing that, because that's been a pet peeve of mine up here, is that we approve things and A, they never get constructed, or B, they get sold and the plan changes completely, right? Been a big problem that I've had with that. Secondly, the lake. Who owns the lake right now? Who's going to own it in the future? Is it the HOA that's going to maintain it? I mean,
Yes.
talk to me about
The
the lake.
HOA will maintain it. In fact, we were just speaking with your Parks and Recreation about what maintenance means in the details. So yes, we will be maintaining.
So the lake will be owned by the HOA.
Correct.
Okay.
But not the entire
Not
lake.
The entire lake,
Yeah.
the lake that's part of this property, but whatever maintenance.
There's like a line between their development and the beginning of Madden's Hammock, and that's the
Correct.
property line. So
Correct.
theirs would be everything north of there to 162nd.
Got it.
That's correct.
Secondly, why is I'm curious about this, because I've never voted on one that had this. why a special taxing district instead of a traditional HOA under Florida
We
statute?
intend to have both. What we were, the concern was that we had anticipated that the aisle have additional security just because it's all waterfront and lakefront. So we wanted to have the additional card readers. And in order to do that, because it is on a public right of way, your city attorney has advised us that will require an additional special taxing district in addition to the one that we already have just for those aisle residences. So that's the way that we anticipate moving forward. So it'll be basically part of the overall the overall special taxing district, the Royal Oaks District West, as well as an HOA to maintain all the common open spaces, including the lake, as well as an additional special taxing district for just those properties within the aisle. There's two different plats here, and the aisle plat is the one that's all waterfront.
Wait, so there's three, there's the
Layers.
3 layers, right?
Right.
They're-
Well, so we have the entire property, the entire HOA area will all is already part of the special taxing district as approved in 2008. In addition, we'll have an HOA for the entire 37 homes. In addition to that, the aisle, which is only one plat, all waterfront homes, will have an additional special taxing district to provide for additional security mechanisms. And the only reason that's required is because the additional security will take place in the public right of way. And just like in Royal Oaks, we'll have to get both council approval for that, as well as county commission approval. So we'll talk more about that in the future.
So the only part that'll have an extra security is the
The
folks that live on the aisle.
Correct.
And then there's the folks that live on the northern portion won't have that special. tax.
Correct.
Interesting. Got it. Okay. Any other? Yep. Councilwoman Serrano.
Thank you. And just to touch on what the mayor was asking. So the road that leads into the aisle will be a special taxing district, but that will be a public road.
Yes, it'll all be a public right of way. The entire project is. on
Okay,
public
so then
roads.
that added security is and is not. So I want to make that clear, right? Because if the roads are public,
Mhm.
then no one can be denied access.
That is correct.
Okay.
So it's going to be open, a card reader, and most likely what we anticipate is having security cameras to a cloud using modern technology.
And the average person that's just visiting would enter by what mechanism?
The door will open, will simply open, it will not be manned.
Okay, so it is just simply to register all of the vehicles.
Exactly.
Not to
going
deny
into the-
access to.
Absolutely. It's public right of way that will not be permitted.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant, Councilman Diegues? If you're still online, if not, we're gonna move on. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here, but I have no questions. I'm just ready to move to approve the project for the reasons stated on the staff report.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. We're continuing. I know staff is here. I just have one other thing. There's a motion and a second on the table. So I've actually heard I'm not going to push this issue, but I've heard the opposite from some residents of Royal Oaks who wish to see an exit on 287, not an entrance, just an exit. I think it's a little strange not having that exit there, but that's up to them. And I'm not going to push that issue at all. But I've definitely heard the opposite, people telling me that they would like to see an exit, but I'm not going to push that issue. I'm fine with whichever direction the council wants to go. That's their issue, if one way or the other. But on the issue of the public road, I'd rather it be a private road going in there. I personally would like to see that being a private road. What's the process
So I'm
for
not
us
gonna
to?
speak for the attorney who is getting up to. do
Yeah, and I'm
their
just like,
sleep.
look, if you're paying all those layers, right? And it doesn't make any sense at all to make that a public
But
road.
remember that this was platted
I
in
get it,
2008
but
as a
what-
as a public road.
What
So
process I would like, I don't know if they want it though, but I would like to turn that into a private road.
That would be up to the applicant.
We're happy to study that issue. The special taxing district will require coming back to the council in order to have that approved. By then, we'll have more details, but as of right now, there's been no discussion about making the aisle private road. But we can look at that.
I-
I think when buyers tell us, maybe the market will tell us something different. But as of right now, we're fine as
I just
is.
think it's a little strange that it's not a private road. So I prefer, if I'm okay with it, I don't know how the council feel, but I prefer that being a private road. You're gonna pay incredible amounts of money to live there, millions of, I don't know, if millions of millions, but millions of dollars to live there. But if it comes up along the process, I would prefer to, I don't know if there needs to be a motion, but I prefer to turn that into a private road. I don't think it doesn't make too much sense.
I think what you're saying makes sense. I just don't know what the market will say. And I think Ms. Tappan's response is kind of on point. 27, I forgot, 21, how many are inside the private 27? They're going to have to reserve
21.
for
Right.
replacement cost for new roads,
Right, that's where it
plumbing,
gets expensive.
and then this is on top of already a special taxing district that's already paying for. So it might actually deter buyers from, if you're talking about not just the mortgage and what you're paying for the financing of the home, the taxes, special taxing district 1, special taxing district number 2, and now for the complete maintenance of the roads to a private island.
I think it'll create an incredible market
Mayor,
there, to be honest.
If I may, this is an issue that they need to decide as it is right now, as it has been since these properties were platted, that those roads in and out of that area belong to the town and are maintained by the town. If they wish to have the town maintain them as a NSD, then that's going to come before you. If they wish for the town to have it as a private road, that would also become before you.
My
at that
point was
time.
just that
But
the
it's not part of
market,
the site plan.
when you're talking about maintaining a private island, that's really what you're doing. A mini Star Island. And I understand that's, a good selling point and people would pay probably a couple extra million, but it might actually work in reverse as well. So I would like to see that kind of fleshed out by the market and see, you guys are professionals and builders, maybe Star Island is what we think is the best but it might not help you sell homes. So
The reality is that it's because the property was not platted as private roads, and specifically because of the width of that public right of way into the aisle, there's not sufficient queuing to allow for a turnaround, right? An actual cul-de-sac. So you can imagine when a road, you have private access, you call, there has to be queuing, stacking, and if someone's not home, right, you've got to like back out. And so new developments require that kind of stacking, queuing, as well as a turnaround or a bypass lane. And it just wasn't designed that way. So it's not something that we've discussed. So we appreciate the flexibility. And again, this is a great example of the town council thinking not only of its residents and its town, but also the investment that GT Homes is making. So we thank you for that flexibility.
Thank you. Any further discussions? A motion and a second. I know there were things you
Wait,
guys
before
want
you
to
vote.
codify.
Please, before you vote, make sure you insert those motions
Yeah, that's.
to change the
I was-
conditions.
I was telling him to codify it
Yes.
now.
Yeah,
Councilman Garcia, then Councilman
Sure.
Cuellar.
So my motion would be to codify in the conditions, tree barriers set on any oak trees that, or any trees actually that our town staff feel that root barriers might be helpful and prevent future sidewalk damage that'll cost us in the future repairs. If they're willing to work with the builders on that, anything that makes common sense. My motion is to add that to the conditions.
I'll second.
Discussion, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Any other motions on the table?
my motion was for the consideration of the opening of 87th Avenue, just for the purposes of construction ingress and egress. And if after the project is completed, the residents of Royal Oaks wish to entertain that as a permanent route for egress, they can bring that forward at that time.
I'll second.
Discussion, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, seeing none, the motion passes. We're back on to the main motion that's been amended twice. Any further discussion?
Just a quick question about the dog park. I know it's a public road. Access to the dog park over the bridge, is that a key card, a key for the residents? what's preventing a person to park right there and just cross over and take their dog?
Well, I think
Just trying to avoid future issues.
So the declaration for the homeowners association prevents or does not allow parking on the street. So I think that answers your question. It would have to be enforced by the HOA. The gates are not locked, just like the gates for the traffic would not prevent people from coming in, but there'll be cameras there remotely monitored so
Okay.
that we can see who's coming in, or look back, better yet, look back and see who was in if there was an issue, right? That's it. So anybody could walk all the way through the community if they wanted and get to the dog park,
Mhm.
but the dog park's owned by the HOA. So the HOA can police it that
So
way.
the HOA will take care of all maintenance,
Correct.
everything to do
Correct.
with that. No,
Correct.
perfect. Thank you so much for answering the question.
so we want it to be welcoming, like all of Miami Lakes is, but of course, secure and safe.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I
of
think
course.
that's the
That's a good
balance.
idea.
And well maintained.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Motion by Councilmember Dieguez, seconded by Councilmember Collazo, as amended twice. Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruano,
Yes.
Councilmember Collazo,
Yes.
Councilmember Dieguez,
Yes.
Mayor Sid.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to the
Welcome to Miami
congratulations.
Lakes.
When's the groundbreaking? Groundbreaking next week? All right. That's 37 new ones.
Mayor, I just wanted the record to reflect that I have received all your ex parte communications forms. So everything is good from the council.
Madam Clerk, my colleague referenced ex parte communication form, and I
Yes.
also provided you one prior to the applicant
Thank you.
coming forward. Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to the Education Advisory Board. Chair Abad is here with us. Welcome.
All right, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, and Town staff. The Education Advisory Board has provided you guys our committee report to the Town Council, and it details where all of our expenses, all our budget has all the programs that they have funded and how many children have benefited from it. I just wanted to state a couple of things after meeting with the principals. Currently, we have 9,088 students in our town schools. That's an increase of about 300 kids from last year. And I believe Our Lady of the Lakes has another 551 students. All our schools have started the MATCAN applications for next school year, and it runs through January 15th. Just as a reminder, all of our secondary schools have magnet programs. Our principals reported that they're offering more AP classes, more electives for the students, more clubs are being opened. They're doing dual enrollment partnerships with our local universities, and more students are participating. Test scores have gone up across the board, according to them. Miami Lakes Education Center and Barbara Goldman reported a 99% graduation rate last year. Hialeah Miami Lakes reported 100% graduation rate. So I think our schools are doing well. Our principals feel, obviously, that we're some of the most desirable schools in the north. Obviously, that's why more kids keep applying to them. They also feel that we have some of the safest schools. Actually, the principal from Miami Lakes K-8 thanked the town council for helping them fund the security system that they're putting at the doors. Currently, as you guys requested, we worked with the student that wanted to do the alternate town seal. And we have picked a winning seal, and I believe next month it's going to be placed somewhere in Town Hall as an exhibition. Last week, we also had a subcommittee meeting with our student advisor, Maritza Costa, in which we invited student leaders from all of our local schools. We had 19 students who participated. I thought it was a wonderful event. They were all very engaged, and I think we're in good hands. Our future is in great hands. And finally, we're collaborating with all of our local schools to create informational digital school flyer that we discussed at one point. I believe some of the schools have already submitted the information, but they've all been asked to do it by our next committee meeting. So if you have any questions.
Any questions of Chair Abad? No, thank you. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Is that going to be an event, the seal that you all are going to be displaying?
So no, our understanding of the town, that what the town council decided was the competition we did. Like I said, actually the student who won is on the autism spectrum disorder. So he's an ESC student, and
He did a
did
great job.
wonderful job, beautiful job.
Did a great
So
job.
I don't know where we will place it. I guess that's up to town staff to decide. I don't know if it's going to be inside the chambers, outside the chambers.
And through the chair, may I ask a real quick question? I know we talked about that. We weren't going to change the app, but we were going to, for that new one, we were going to put it maybe on our website temporarily. And, so we're not going to spend, it's too costly to put it on, but at least put it on the website temporarily and things like that. The new, or put it, somewhere, not only outside, but, digitally, that it could be removed after a while. But I know we talked about that when we brought that up as well. So to show that, hey, they put a lot of hard work into it. This is almost a year in the making,
Yeah.
right? So
And by the way, we do appreciate Miami Lakes Education Center blew it up for us for free. So
yeah,
there was no cost associated.
yeah. So I mean, that'll be nice to prominently display it and then put it in our digital, maybe our Instagram and Facebook.
Right.
Just a temporary seal, whatever, just to so then the kids that work so hard on this can see their work, shared with the community.
Absolutely.
Councilman Garcia, I think that's a great idea. Councilman, I'm sorry, Chairman Abad, how many respondents did you get to that?
So my understanding is that only one student actually submitted.
Okay, so one of the things that we can do is maybe on the letterhead, replace the letterhead with the new image, and all of us send them a congratulations. I know the student, it's a friend of a family that's been very invested in a dear friend of mine from high school. So I would love to, maybe one of the things that we can do to recognize that student is give him a keepsake for the rest of his life, which is a letter signed by the mayor and all of us thanking him for his hard work. And I don't think there will be much of a cost other than imposing the new image. I got a glimpse of it as well from a very proud grandmother. So I've been seeing it already, and I think it's something that we could do to recognize and honor the submission.
So I'm all for it. I would just ask you that if you're going to do that, to also recognize the student who brought the project forward, right? So maybe instead of one letter, maybe create two letters, one for each student. And
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're good.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate all your work
Thank
and
you.
your patience tonight. Thank you. We're moving on to the items that were pulled from consent. I don't know who actually pulled them, but it's items 10F and 10G. 10F, who pulled 10F first?
10F is mine.
Okay.
On to item 10F, thank you very much, Mayor. This is not so much to have a motion. I do just wanted to bring something forward to the council's attention, something that was brought forward to me to the manager. 10F is for a change order. It's for new AC systems that are being installed here in Town Hall. The item does carry a hefty price tag over $90,000. So close your eyes, right? We just went through budget season. This was an unforeseen expense. Where would we have gotten $90,000 from, right? Well, thank God the sinking funds were there, right? Thank God that sinking fund is there. But at this rate, eventually the sinking fund will not be there. Again, I've been a big proponent of this. It's bailed us out. I'm going to use that terminology, but it is something that if we do not recalibrate, we do not fully fund, we're going to be in serious heartache in not so long. And I know my colleagues like Councilman Dieguez, Councilman Morano, you've talked about not just this, but other capital items. I think this is dearly important. We continue to see this on an ongoing basis. We need these items not just funded, but the sinking fund needs to be retweaked every now and then, especially when these unforeseen items come up and we use that. I think we need to make sure that that's front and center. A year from now, I'm not going to be here. Somebody else will have to carry the torch of the sinking fund, but I've seen it time and time again be something that bails us out, and something that I want to make sure we continue to have discussions on. So I'm not necessarily taking the victory lap on the sinking fund. What I want to make sure is that we just refund it and make sure that the funds are there for future generations. Thank you.
All right, with no motion, the item fails. We're on to the. No, but that's what you got to make a motion. You pulled it. You gotta make a motion
I
to approve that.
pulled the item not for I pulled it just for discussion. I wanted to make sure that
No, but
we.
you got to make a motion. to
Since it
approve
was pulled, it's.
Oh, yes, I'll move the item, item 10F.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. We're on to item 10G.
Item 10G, I pulled this item. This is the item regarding the bioswale. Yes, I'm sorry. Regarding the bioswale, I know that we discussed taking this for a test drive, and I just wanted to point out that it's almost a $30,000 expense. So I wanted to find out, and I had this discussion with the manager. I wanted to find out I know that this is something that we're adding on to one of our projects, but is this $30,000 in excess of having a regular swale?
Good evening, Omar Santos, Public Works Director. So what the $30,000 is are just for the design of the swale. So this was take an existing swale and turn it into a bioswale. There is a potential savings in the gray infrastructure that we're going to be placing. So we may, at the end, there'll be a net savings, but that's to be determined through an analysis of the engineer that's designing the system.
Okay, and this design that we're putting together for this particular swale, is this a design that we can continue to use in the future, or is it specific to this project?
It would be, since we're tying into the system, we have asked the engineer to calculate what that system is going to absorb to see if there's some benefit to the gray infrastructure. That way we don't have to make that system as bigger. But these are actually two projects that we're going, two locations within the town that we're proposing. It's 29, but it's split in two different projects.
Okay, so then we're looking at about a $15,000 cost for design
Yes.
that might be netted out later on with some savings from the same
From the gray
project.
infrastructure.
Okay, so I just want to keep an eye on this. I mean, I'll move it and we'll vote on it, but I just want to keep an eye on it because I want to make sure that in moving forward with these bioswales that we don't add more cost to our projects.
Yeah, and this is the biggest location is the one directly south of the Royal Oaks Park, which ties in very closely to the project that is currently in design.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Before we move on to the consent calendar, I had one question on an item that I did not get a chance to pull, and that was on the authorization to auction retired vac truck. Is there a minimum that you've set? Because I would hate to see that auction and then you guys get pennies and then come back and we tried.
We would have to discuss. I don't know. We may be able to. I know in the past there was an analysis done. I don't remember the number of what the value of the truck would be in an auction, but I can provide that information through the manager after this meeting.
Have you checked? I know we pay highly on a monthly basis to park some of our stuff over there. Have you checked if they, in lieu of payment, if they want to take on this truck? We have-
Yeah, for Hialeah, it's just the two mover buses. It's not the vac truck.
I've never said it was a vac truck. I said, instead of try to give them the vac truck and tell them to waive our monthly fee of holding our old vans that haven't been moved in.
We have not explored that, but
Yeah, we have not.
I mean, if you approve this authorization, we could explore that before moving forward with the auction.
Yeah, I just want to find ways to get that. I'm fine with it. Just explore all options.
Okay.
Back on consent, any motions?
Well, so exploring all options, are we going to go ahead and add that to that item, or do we need to reopen?
Yeah, we need to
So,
reopen.
okay.
I didn't get a chance to pull it.
So reopen the motion to reopen the consent
Second.
calendar.
We're removing item that is 10E. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. I'll make a motion just to direct the manager before the auction goes out to approve this item, but to explore all options beforehand and report back to the
Second.
council, the next councilman. There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. We're back on to the consent calendar. Any motions for the consent calendar?
I'll move the
So moved.
consent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. We're on to ordinances in first reading. Mr. Attorney.
No, an ordinance of the town of Miami Lakes, Florida, providing for short-term interfund loan from unrestricted general fund balance to capital project fund in an amount not to exceed $2,500,000, providing for transfer of funds, providing for expenditure of funds, providing for amendments, providing for conflicts, authorizing the town manager to take all actions necessary to implement the terms of the conditions of the ordinance, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion on this, discussion. Yes, on me, I'll be voting no. While I love this project, I am no longer in favor of the strategic direction of this project, how it's being managed going forward. So I'll be voting no on this item and several other items dealing with Northwest 59th Avenue moving forward. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ordinance in first reading, item 11A, Councilmember Collazo.
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano.
Yes.
Councilmember Dieguez.
Yes.
Mayor Sid.
No.
The item passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to resolutions. Item 13A, Mr. Attorney.
A resolution of the town council of the town of Miami Lakes, Florida, incorporating police enhancement strategies into the town strategic plan, providing for incorporation of recitals and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion on 13A, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We're on to item 13B.
A resolution of the town of Miami Lakes, Florida, pursuant to Town Code Article 12, Division 2, co-designating Northwest 82nd Street from Northwest 154th Street to Oak Lane, Rosa Nell Hammer Way, providing for instructions to the town manager, providing for incorporation of recitals, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. We're on to the next item, which is item 14A, which is my item. I'm going to be withdrawing that item. We're on to 14B, Councilman Dieguez.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. I just wanted to kind of make some notes regarding a change I'm going to make in my motion with respect to the memorandum as submitted. When this item was first proposed, obviously I had just been coming back from the county commission meeting in which they discussed the location of the new incinerator site. And initially there was some confusion as to where it was going to go. There's a site that they're exploring that's called Opalaca, and it gave many people the impression that it was referring to the active airport to our east. But as it turns out, it is the airport much further away, an old one that's been shut down since 2006, called Opalaca West. I still think that this is an important issue that we need to monitor. So my motion is going to be to go ahead and give the manager direction to continuously monitor this item and to report back as developments occur with respect to that, with respect to the proposal at that site, right? And on this item generally, but as it happens, as opposed to on a regular monthly meeting. The reason being, again, because some of the urgency, I think, has shifted a little, knowing now where the new trash site is going to go. So just to get, my motion is to give direction to the manager simply to report back as changes develop related to this, and also for the town attorney to look into the Southwest Broward landfill incinerator site, whatever it is apparently being proposed in Southwest Broward that could affect this, and report back at the November council meeting with their findings as far as what project are they talking about, and what sorts of impacts may occur to us and where they are with approvals for that project. So that is my motion.
I'll second.
Got it. So I'll add some feedback on that. One of the biggest issues that they have with Opalaca West is the increase in the garbage fees that'll take to transport garbage all the way out there. Additionally, is the lengthy approval process on the federal government side, because that's wetland protection area. There's only 40 acres that can be actually utilized out there. During Hurricane Irma, they would use it as one of their sites where they would leave different debris, and then even the county Durham stopped them to that effect. So the county said if they had to build it there, by the time they got the approvals, the county alone building the site would take close to over a decade, right? So that's a decade in county terms, meaning 20 years. The other sites that obviously Doral, the Doral residents don't want it. They're talking about doing a special taxing district in Doral to move it. The only one that actually wants it, I think it was the mayor of Medley that's saying he would like to see it there. The challenge there, it's a private facility. So yeah, it's a lengthy process. But it definitely is, it's interesting. And it seems that I just hope they don't keep kicking the can down the road, because it's going to impact people. What's interesting is not only the increase in garbage fees, which I've heard already from a lot of folks who are concerned, but how it's going to increase as we move forward, right? It's even a larger increase than even what Optimus Park would have been for our residents. So long-term, it's going to be a lot of money. And especially for cities that have their own garbage, their tipping fees are going to go up exponentially. So I'm in favor of the item. I'll let staff look at it, but definitely it's a concerning issue. Also with bulky waste, that process, there's the one in Miami Gardens, the main bulky waste site that gets moved from the transfer stations like PSN. And now it's when they're finally talking about raising that site. So what happens if they get opposition there? So it's going to be a really interesting take on that, but it impacts our residents because we use county services. So just wanted to add that in there, but I'm good with the item. There was a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. We're on to the next item, Councilwoman Serrano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item comes on the heels of a request from the Miami Lakes Garden Club. They are requesting the use of the Mary Collins Community Center, either inside the community center or in the parking lot facility, to host their annual rummage sale. They have hosted this traditionally on Main Street, but they feel that with the farmers market that's being hosted there now, it would be a conflict, too many people in the same area. So they are requesting our approval to use this location between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. on November the 12th.
Second. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. We're on to the next item. It's my item, and I don't fail to realize that when it comes to these types of issues, that I am in the deep minority of the council. But I needed to bring it up because I am concerned for the future. And there was a long time here where the pendulum swung one way, where staff really didn't get raises for a long time. And then the pendulum has swung the other way, where we're adding to our pension liability, and there's a rapid increase in administrative costs, and then a lowering of services at the same time, which is concerning. So I wanted to, before we keep down this path, and again, I'm bringing it up knowing that I'm in the minority on this, but I wanted to see if we can come up with a more thoughtful plan, something similar. The county did it, but the county is obviously doing it in a different fashion. But the state of Florida did one, the legislature did one that actually works really well. And more than anything, it looks at longevity and rewards longevity instead of the yearly COLAs that increase the administrative costs while decreasing services. So I would like to make a motion to direct staff to start bringing back some options to the council where we can look at long-term possibilities of rewarding staff, but also not having those two cultures that exist, right? Where we had the pendulum on one side for a decade, our staff did not receive any raises, and now it's become the opposite, where it's a yearly thing and it takes precedent over services. So I would like a more thoughtful process to happen, because I am concerned at the rate of growth of administrative costs. But I would like for our long-term staff members to be rewarded and get rewarded for the longevity. And I think the state has a really good model, but I had to bring it up because I'm really, really concerned for the future of our budgetary process, because those, while it seems it's not a big deal, we've done it, I think, 4 years in a row or whatever it is, and it's millions of dollars, right? It's not hundreds of thousands of recurring dollars that take away from our ability to do things like the sinking fund, from putting in money in infrastructure. So I would like just to see a middle ground, not what we have now. That's one extreme, and then not what we had in the past, which is another extreme. To have something more in the middle, a little bit more thoughtful, something that our future councils can embrace and our residents can be happy with as well. So I just want to make a motion to have staff come back to us with various options on a pay plan that looks at all different options, the state of Florida, the county, but something that we can work with that prioritizes services, but at the same time doesn't hamstring us with a lot of legacy costs going forward. Second. Discussion.
Yes.
Councilman
Mr. Mayor, I think it's a good idea to always reward superstars in any organization, reward those that go the extra mile constantly. And the good thing is the majority of our staff is always going the extra mile, but putting a mechanism in place, the private sector does it a lot. As someone who has direct reports for years, I also, participate in that in the private sector. Rewarding the superstars only, keeps them in the organization. The worst thing to be is an employee who constantly comes in, goes the extra mile for years and is not recognized for that. And how we get recognized? Yes, praise is great, but money in the bank account kind of is the best way. So I would ask the manager if there's any way we can, a metrics based goal system where we have direct goals for the different departments, and if they exceed those goals, you have a budget where you can, if they exceed expectation, then the percentage of any raises, goes up for them. If someone meets expectations, they're capped. And if they're under expectations, they're not going to receive just a general 1 or 2% COLA. That's the way the private sector does it. It's very effective in some ways. We don't work on commissions here. It's all work product, right? Just to look into how the private sector does it or how other organizations do it. You work with organizations, other city managers, and see if there's anything that can hit the middle ground that the mayor's looking for, right? Something that'll inspire, but not leave people out that are actually working hard. So I would, if you could look into that, I would appreciate that.
Any further discussion? See none. All those in favor? Yes, Councilman Fernandez.
Yes. So to Councilman Garcia's point, I would also prefer to see a model like what I was a champion of my first budget cycle, which is a hybrid, a mix of performance and COLA. So that's really what I would like to see come out of this process.
Any further discussion? See none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We're on to Councilman Dieguez's item. Oh, he did? He deferred the item.
That one was deferred.
Did you defer the domestic violence one as well?
No, that one I'm keeping, but I'm making some changes when it comes time to present.
Got it. So there's about 4 more items that just need waiver of rules. So I'll waive them all together.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. This item, I've been talking about it for a long time. One of the, I wouldn't say biggest mistakes, but one of the things that we did do a decade ago, which really hurt I think the nimbleness of our organization, was approving such a robust and bureaucratic and I understood why they did it, right? A procurement ordinance. They did it because obviously there were some major issues happening in the town, major problem, but it went too far. And it's gone so far that we've seen what happens when we try to procure simple things as an entrance feature. We try to procure, when we did the cost estimation for Optimus Park, or we do certain cost estimation, it's hurt us in terms of it adds immense cost, but not sufficient value to our customers, which are our residents. And I'm still a believer that there's wiggle room in most of our procurement process to save a tremendous amount of money. So I just wanted to direct staff to work with our attorney to come back with a reformed procurement process where we don't have things like, one of my pet peeves was, hey, your contractor's sub has to have 20 years of experience working at a city that is 50,000 residents or less or more, right? And then you're like, wait a sec, you know what I mean? There were certain things that are in there, or you have to, I read it off at one of the last council meetings, or you had certain aspects in there that they have to be making a certain amount of money, or they have to have monies in, $2 million in reserves, things like that. There's sufficient mechanisms to protect taxpayer dollars without making it overly cumbersome to the process. So I just wanted to direct staff to work with our attorney to come back and reform our procurement process, take time, talk to staff, talk to the private sector, right? We've seen when we talk to the private sector, they can be very transparent as to what they feel are the wrong things happening with municipal, county. The county just added 36 new items to their procurement process where they're talking about different issues like social engineering stuff. And, if you look a certain way, or you talk a certain way, you're going to get points for this, or, very weird stuff. We don't have that, but our procurement ordinance is very big. And it was geared towards a city that is not here in our county, that is not known for being very nimble. So I just want to direct staff to start working on this, be very methodical. It doesn't mean it needs to come back within a month, but take their time, look at not only what other cities are doing, but get private sector perspective as to what are the things happening. So we can work on it. So that's my motion for staff to work with our attorney to come back with something to reform that process.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I've had
Councilman
some
Garcia.
experience with working with smaller, for example, when you add too many regulations, the smaller contractor can't compete with the larger. And I remember many projects, a position of mine where we put to RFP and we had a more streamlined process, and the smaller local contractors got to bid on projects and they won them, and they were more nimble, more responsive to us. And just for like he was talking about the entrance feature of the town, things like that. Sometimes the larger ones don't, or they just it's too complicated. So yeah, absolutely. As long as we're following the rules and regulations, if there's anything we can do to streamline the process and make it easier, quicker, they're more reactive to us, maybe more local. It'll avoid change orders and different areas, and we can we're a smaller town. We need to be more nimble. And I think anything that can streamline the process, I'm all for. So I'll be voting yes on this.
Mr. Mayor.
Collazo and Councilman Diegues.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in favor in general with this direction, and during my briefing with the manager, I spoke to my experience kind of bidding on procurement with the county, right? And how you can get rewarded for certain components and how small businesses get rewarded. But I also want to remember a time where I wasn't on this council. I don't know if Mayor, you were serving at the time. The council at that time tried to say, hey, well, we can definitely get this from the private sector, and we have the small mom and pop, and they can come in and take care of our right of ways, right? And the mom and pop just didn't have the capacity to do that, and it failed, and they had to go back. So I want to make sure that while we go through that, we also have the safeguards in place to make sure that we have a backup plan, right? So trying to get those private mom and pops and giving those opportunities, but sometimes they might fall short, right? And making sure that we have also a second layer to the plan, so to speak, that can pick up the pieces. And I think we have an example of that. I think which passed through consent. I think that there was an RFP that you guys did. Somebody came back with very aggressive pricing, and I think the town's recommendation was let's keep both, right? Let's get the best bang for our buck with the aggressive pricing, but just in case that this was a low ball offer, let's make sure that we have something in place. So I'm in the spirit of it. I'm good with it. My experience tells me sometimes the price is too low, it's too good to be true, or you get what you pay for, right? And I think that's also some of the things that we've seen happen here in through the procurement process. So in general, I'm in favor, and we'll be voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Councilman Diegues.
Thank you. And basically echoing Councilmember Collazo's comments, I think that our procurement process as it stands to date seems to be working pretty well for us, but generally as well, I'm all for always trying to find ways that we can make something more efficient and make it better to deliver the value that our residents expect for the taxes that they pay. However, I certainly will be scrutinizing what the proposals come back with. Obviously, for example, having certain capital requirements in terms of what a company needs to have in reserve is to ensure that the company's not going to go bankrupt and, midway through the contract and put us in an awkward position. And obviously, again, similar as the council member pointed out, we can, sort of hedge against that by having a secondary vendor. I just think also, that it serves a purpose to ensure that they are a company with a certain degree of experience and that they're a company that is going to have enough capital to be viable throughout the life of the contract. So I'm going to support the item, but I just want to put on the record for staff, to ensure that whatever they come back with, that it's not just, overcorrecting, right? But rather to be something that is sensible, that is actually going to make us more responsive to the needs of our residents without also then putting us in a position where we're going to have to go back out to bid or, having to correct some other issue down the line. So I'm going to support the item, but, just wanted to put those comments on the record for staff's benefit for when they come back and provide the details of their proposal.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. We're on to your item, Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Thank you. And I'm actually let me just start with this, that I was at an event not too long ago, and the president of a local nonprofit foundation that deals with women who have been abused approached me and mentioned that she had been meeting with different residents and also with different leadership at different cities. In fact, I think, Mr. Mayor, she had tried to reach out to you with respect to trying to show solidarity between the cities for issues related to domestic abuse, and is asking cities to light up their municipal government center in the color purple, which is meant to commemorate Domestic Violence Recognition Month, which is in the month of October. So I wanted to, at her request, I decided I will go ahead and submit this item and request that we do it. Since then, I've also become aware that Commissioner/Senator Garcia is asking that we also light up Town Hall in red at the end of the month as part of, raising awareness as it relates to opioid abuse. So my motion is going to be, and then also in light of Councilmember Fernandez's item, and not at all to steal his thunder, but rather since we're kind of on the topic, might as well cover all of them together. In light of the events in Israel and the tragedy that has unfolded there, and our desire to show solidarity with our ally Israel, my motion is going to be to go ahead and have Town Hall be lit up in blue and white, as Councilmember Fernandez had requested, for the next couple of days, and then to later switch over to purple to recognize victims of domestic violence, and then finally to end the month to have Town Hall lit up in red, as requested by Commissioner Garcia, to go ahead and raise awareness with respect to opioid abuse. And I think these would be nice ways of recognizing all these events that are happening concurrently throughout the month of October. So that is my motion.
I will second your motion for discussion.
Councilman Fernandez.
So thank you, Councilman Dieguez. And I think at this point, maybe we should invest in some, color changing light bulbs because the town hall has been lit up in pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month since the beginning of the month. And so this will make 4 different colors that we will rotate through. So we may want to invest in that. Thank you, Councilman Dieguez, for alluding to my request on my item. I will also and I'll talk about it more during my item, but I will also be lighting up the outside of Town Hall in blue and white tomorrow. So, but fully supportive of your motion, sir. Thank you.
Got it. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. The motion passes. We're on to Councilman Fernandez's item.
Excellent segue to my item. So all of you before you should have the resolution that I requested for the town attorney to prepare in support and solidarity of our ally Israel and the Israeli people that have suffered through a week of unconscionable horror. And so I think it's not only our duty, but it's definitely deserving that we stand with them and the community here in the town of Miami Lakes. As we all know, and as details continue to come out from that situation, there's an increasing number of U.S. citizens that have also either perished in the attacks or believed to be kidnapped at this time. So definitely want to extend our sympathies to those families. With that being said, I would like to make a motion to adopt a resolution before you.
A second. Then I'll also make a quick motion just to waive the 4-day rule on this side. Second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. On this item, not only have we seen the terrible terrorist act in Israel committed by Hamas, but a lot of people forget that, especially everybody that's on this dais and a lot of our residents, even a lot of the folks that are here, who are of Cuban descent, right? When the Castro regime took everything away from our families, when the Castro regime stepped on the necks of people that we loved and murdered a lot of the folks that we know, loved ones, I mean, horror stories throughout the years, there was always one country who stood by the United States when it came to taking on Fidel Castro and that group of thugs. When a lot of the nations were happy, smoking Cuban cigars, drinking Cuban rum, having a good time visiting Cuba, sitting on a Malecón, and there was one country who stood by our side no matter what, and that was Israel. So we have a moral obligation to stand by our allies who stood by not only our country, the United States, but stood by us when every other country was saying, no, open up relations with Fidel, open up relations with Cuba, do all these crazy things. Israel was the only country that says, man, you guys are crazy. Those people are communist thugs who are oppressing their people, who are killing the folks. So, I mean, Israel to this day, I think there was a vote in the United Nations on the embargo, which is one of the last negotiating chip that we have to free political prisoners and to make sure that civil and human rights are respected. Israel is the only country that votes with us, that votes to back up Cuban Americans and people, Venezuela, Nicaragua, everywhere else. They are consistently fighting bad people throughout the world. So in situations like this, we got to definitely have their backs and show a sign of solidarity. And our Jewish brothers and sisters here in the town alone, I think we're up to 50 families already that are Jewish. Some even from Israel that live here. So we definitely appreciate you bringing up this item. And I think I saw something on social media about tomorrow, so I'll definitely be there because we got to show some solidarity. And some of the news that came out today was some of the most horrific things I've ever heard in my life. Like some of the stuff that was shared was like, I mean, I was pretty much in tears. That was the craziest thing I've ever heard. War crimes I've ever heard in my life, having to deal with Jewish babies, which was just terrible, deplorable. So thank you for bringing this up.
I have a question to my colleague, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I'm supportive of the motion as far as the resolution and everything else. I just wanted to know if the item from your memorandum as far as the raising of the Jewish flag is still included in your motion.
So I've worked with town staff, and I think we found a solution. There's a couple of difficulties with the flag protocols and the fact that our flags are now flying at half staff, both the U.S. flag. So it may be difficult for us to respect each country's flag protocols and display the Israeli flag on our flagpoles. But I think we came up with an accommodation that I think will serve the spirit of the item.
Okay, may I ask what is that accommodation?
We're going to post a temporary standalone pole during the event tomorrow. and display the flag that way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just want to be very cautious on that front. Obviously, you know, I think we all want to be supportive in this difficult time. But of course, one of the biggest issues that we've had, as you know, is that there have been other groups that have asked us to fly different flags, right? Obviously, in this case, this is a governmental flag. But I think at one point or another, most, if not all of us, have said that the only flags that should be on our poles are government flags related to the United States. And that it was to avoid, again, having to open the door on First Amendment grounds to other groups that want to fly flags that, you know, have special meaning to them, but may not have special meaning to others. And so to avoid that Pandora's box, that's why we have consistently voted against allowing any other flag to be on our poles. I think the accommodation sounds reasonable under the circumstances, especially just to have a separate stand for it for this particular event. But I just want us to be mindful at all times, you know, to all my colleagues as we continue moving forward, to be aware of the consequences, the unintended consequences of, you know, of going ahead and, for example, having other flags that are not U.S. military or specifically related to the government of the United States or the town of Miami Lakes or the state of Florida on those poles. We do not want to open up a First Amendment Pandora's box that undercuts the stated position of each and every one of us at one point or another as to other flags. So I just wanted to put that in the record and get clarity on that, but I will be supporting the item as far as the resolution, the town hall lighting, and the other elements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The
All right,
motion-
Mayor.
the
And then
motion passed.
the second part of my item, it was two items. It's the resolution, and then the second part of it is just to advise the council and inform the public that tomorrow Rabbi Weiss, as well as other community leaders, and I will be hosting essentially a community gathering in support of peace in Israel outside of town hall in the area where the Veterans Memorial is now, and so I would obviously invite all of you that are able to attend and show your support alongside of us. Thank you.
Thank you. You need a motion for that? Well, that was that new item that passed that you can do events. All right.
Just a motion of personal privilege, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman
Yeah,
Kraus.
and I do just want to be very cognizant and respectful to the item that we're talking about. And my heart's with the people of Israel, but I will not be able to attend tomorrow's event. I have a previous engagement, so please don't take that as something that I'm not honoring the event or honoring your cause, but I do have daddy duties that I have to be on tomorrow, and they do involve a baseball diamond. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'll be there in spirit.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Ram.
If I may as well, I want to commend Councilmember Fernandez for bringing this item forward and echo the sentiments that have been described here this evening. We have been witnessing sheer evil on our television sets, and it's images that I wish I could erase from my memory. My heart bleeds for the people of Israel, and likewise for those innocent people that also live in Gaza and will also be victims of some horrors themselves. And so I appreciate the item. I appreciate the event that you will be hosting tomorrow, and I will not be able to attend, but I want to let everyone know that I do stand with the people that are experiencing these horrible moments, and I have them in my prayers each and every day.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And the other thing that I brought forward in my memorandum, which I would love all the members of the council that would like to participate in, is perhaps at the end of the meeting we can do a short video in support of solidarity. So thank you.
Okay, let's do that for sure. There was no motion for that. All right. So we can do that. We can do that and post it on the town social media, letting know folks to go tomorrow. We can do a video, all of us. All right, let's do that. We're moving on to my items. I meant to combine these items, So it's just you all as a council decided during the budget cycle that I have to bring back, let you guys know when I'm gonna travel. So I'm gonna travel in January to committee weeks in Tallahassee. It's just a flight back there and back. I wanted Joseph and the manager and the deputy manager already start looking at prices, but I wanted to make sure that the council was okay with that, because if we get it now, it's going to be a lot cheaper than if they start working on it now, than it would be if I wait till the January council meeting. They get really expensive. So I don't know what process is supposed to go, if there needs to be a motion, but just.
I don't recall us asking for a motion, just for you to bring it forward. And I think what the manager said, that he would go ahead and he'd be able to put it through the administrative travel budget. That's what I recollect from the meeting. So it was just a report, and then I think you can handle it administratively.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to handle it. Mayor, do you have, I didn't hear the part of, did you say or state any specific time frame that
Yes,
you want?
Jan-
During session or now during
No,
committee?
committee weeks.
Okay, we'll coordinate the specific dates.
Yeah, so it's just a day, go up and go back. Same day.
Mr.
Alright.
Manager, and when those dates are coordinated, if you could please let all of us know in case we want to join the mayor up there. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, council. We're on to manager's report, electric vehicles, charging stations, then monthly infrastructure, police, AD parks.
Nothing on impact or intergovernmental, or that all kind of.
No,
falls under-
I'm so impact, I'll bring it back. That's for another month. And then I combine those. I meant to combine those together. So that was on me for filing. Got it. No worries. No, we're trying to go fast. Manager's point, electric vehicles, charging stations.
Yeah, the only thing here, we had direction from this council, since 2020. And we've been gone down this road, tried this process, RFP process multiple times, putting it out. And always with the caveat that we would provide a public space for these contractors or these vendors. And then they would come in and they would foot the entire bill for putting in public access electric vehicle stations. Every time we've done it, they've come back with requiring the city or the town to come up with some portion of the upfront cost, which was against what the council's direction. So we've done it multiple times. I believe that the public sector has stepped in over the last 3 years and have accommodated some of the need of the demand for public EV chargers. So we're just basically looking for direction from this council to see, do we continue to pursue this, or do we allow the public sector and like the parking garage next door, the chargers that are out by Carrabba's and other places in and around the town to meet the demand of the EV users?
Through the chair?
Yes.
I see one of the, sorry.
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
great. I see one of the minimum qualifications, having a minimum of 3 years experience installing, operating, maintenance, and managing electric vehicle charging stations. 3 years minimum?
Well, yeah. Yes.
Well, this is one of the things we were talking about. As you know, this is not as new as other infrastructure, but it's kind of new. And there's a lot of new companies coming in. 3 years might be way too much, especially since it's a new technology, to say you have to have a minimum of 3 years experience. What we're looking for in City Hall, what I was looking for in City Hall was just a destination charger, not a large, supercharger, to be able to, you can put that on a 110 or a 220. And honestly, you can buy one for about $1,000, $2,000. So yes, private companies want to make money. They're not going to make money at City Hall. In the future, I plan to propose purchasing electric vehicles for town staff or town vehicles. What we need is just 2 destination chargers for anybody who comes in, wants to top off. Honestly, for an investment of maybe $2,000 plus another $1,000 electrical, I think we can do it ourselves. We don't need to put it to RFP. I believe we can purchase it, do it ourselves, just have that there. Not only for, I'm sure if we look out there, there's a couple Teslas, electric vehicles, and for the future, we're going to have, staff vehicles, perhaps some police cars as well. Most cities are going to that. They're finding significant savings in maintenance, significant savings in gasoline cost. It pays for itself within 6 years, and every year it's you know, it used to be 10 years and 7, it's 6 now. So I asked my colleagues, all we need to do is purchase them and install them, not put it to RFP, just have the service there. We can designate 2 spots or 1 spot in the front of City Hall. And then our town vehicles in the future, when they do become plug-in, can use them as well. So that's my thinking.
So are you proposing that these be open and anybody comes and just plugs into them? Or because the ones that are open access for the public, there's a machine where you have to put your credit card and you
Yeah.
get charged for the power.
Yeah.
Are you proposing that we supply the power for anybody who wants to come and use it?
Well, I'm looking at the RFP and the conditions of the RFP, 3 years minimum. It's brand new, right? So we're looking to purchase and get them installed, right? In a situation like this, where it's a small project, it's not a large project, I think that some of these requirements might hurt some of the smaller businesses that want to try to jump into this. And again, it's purchasing the charger, it's a destination charger. People put these things in their garage and they have electricians come in and put it in their garage wall. I'm not asking for a supercharger, which requires new transformers and new cables and digging and things like that. It's a pretty simple process. It's not that I've done some research on it. It's what I'm thinking destination charge is very simple to install. So, or maybe, the power is minimal, guys. It's minimal, honestly, when it comes to the power usage. It's just, you're having issues, right? Getting a company to come in and do it this way. So,
Councilman Collazo, Councilman Fernandez, I know Councilman Collazo.
Yeah, thank you so much. Councilman Garcia, and I know that you've been a champion of this. I don't think it's the oversimplification. The oversimplification of it has you very frustrated, and I can tell because there's never been a meeting that you haven't spoken about this. So I know it's something that's very passionate, and I think it's one of the things that most communities deal with when they're trying to retrofit old communities into this new technology, right? So my neighbor got, I think it's a Rivian. He bought the thing, he put it on his wall. I think what you have is when you're a renter, right, and you don't have necessarily the infrastructure. So I'm going to give you some examples of a community that I used to live in, Celebration Point, right? You have an electric vehicle in Celebration Point. Where do you charge it, right? If it's not through a common area or common outlet, and what are you going to be doing? Are you going to be borrowing the public's electricity? And then that's not necessarily fair, right? If you're asking. So communities like Celebration Point, old condo communities, places that are going through this retrofit to accommodate the customer demand. I think you've hit something that maybe we can easily modify our neighborhood matching grant program to do, right? So if a community has an interest in this, has an interest in moving forward and installing something like this to make sure that they meet the demands of their community, maybe that's something that we can explore, right? Now, to the first thing that you're suggesting, having Town Hall be a public fill-up station for electric vehicles without necessarily charging them, I have a little bit of heartburn with that. But I think that there's something, or there's a path that we can go, and something that I think you are champion for and very well suited to kind of flesh out with staff. So the first thing that jumped into my mind was that neighborhood matching grant, kind of, allowing Celebration Point, maybe these older condominium communities that are trying to retrofit. But I think definitely something that we need to have if we go down the lines of having an electric vehicle fleet, right? I think you're going to have to install that somewhere. So I think you're onto something. I think you can continue to flesh it out. I think it's kind of the retrofit component that
Sure.
That might be an opportunity
To
for you.
clarify through the chair, unless somebody else,
Yeah.
I think the private sector needs to take care of putting supercharge all over the town in their shopping centers. This is not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to City Hall. There are thousands of cities that have just used light poles and added a charge using the existing electricity. It's not that deep, is what I'm trying to say, guys. It's not.
Councilmember, don't we have charging stations in the parking garage that's right outside of our door?
Yes, we do.
So why can't people just use those?
Well, because those are mostly for the
But they're
residents.
public. The parking garage is open.
No, I understand that. I understand that. What I'm preparing ourselves is for what's happening and what's happening now and what's happening. having the infrastructure to prepare ourselves for what's happening. And within 5 years, half the cars in our parking lot are going to be electric. There's no qualm. I'm proposing in the future, converting what can be converted in our vehicles for staff to be electric. It's police departments are doing all over the country, electric vehicles, buses, they're all converting, not because it's great for the environment, which it is because it saves so much money. And 50% of maintenance, 50% in energy cost. We're just preparing for what's happening. And it's a good example to have at least one destination charger out there. And in fact, I'll buy it myself. I honestly, guys, it's a 110. We're just connecting it to an existing light pole. When we do because we need to move forward. It's something that is so, just to have a destination charger, which is very low power. The same power that comes from honestly it could come from a toaster,
My hair dryer.
a hair dryer, or even doing a 220, like from a washing machine. Honestly, guys, we are so behind in infrastructure in this town. It's beginning to be a little bit of, hey, guys, it's happening. We can't just put our heads in the sand. We need to prepare ourselves, and we need to have, here in City Hall be an example. It's very minimum cost. I'm not talking about putting charges all over the city, the town. Private sector needs to do that. I'm talking about preparing ourselves as a government entity for what's happening when it comes to the infrastructure going forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna allow
Councilman.
Councilman.
That's all I'm saying.
Fernandez.
Yeah, so I wanted to chime in. I have three, I think, distinct points. Number one, second council meeting in a row, Councilman Collazo. Genius idea with the neighborhood matching grants. That's a vehicle that's pun intended. That's grossly underutilized and something that we can use to leverage some of those communities in a way that I don't think they've really thought they could be used before. So I applaud you for that. Second of all, one of the things that I shared with staff during my briefing that I remember reading probably about a year ago now is that one of the states in the Beltway, either Virginia, West Virginia, Arkansas, one of those actually passed a state statute that mandated that any municipality that provided free electric vehicle charging stations also provide free gasoline to its residents in the same way, right? And putting both of them on equal access, right? And there's a variety of reasons why they did that, but I think the crux of the matter is if we do a public station, it's become a lot easier to monetize those. Like I've seen them where they look like the smaller, more residential types, but they have technology built in so that you can recover the cost of the electricity and make it favorable. What you wouldn't want to do is to encourage for people to go out of their way to come here to charge their vehicles because the electricity is provided here and not at their homes or at other places where they might frequent. So I think that's something to consider. I think if we do something like that to make it equitable, I think we would have to be able to recover our costs. But ultimately, what I would like to see happen is, I've known for a long time that you're a great champion of these causes, and you've taken a lot of time to research this. So what I would like to see is to have you go back, work with staff between now and the next council meeting, and bring back a new and reimagined version of what this could look like in a way that one gets traction, right? Because it's been 3 years, Mr. Manager, and there's been no movement on it. So I would, I do agree with the general movement that this is going with, but I would like for it to bear fruit. So if you could work with, my motion would be that you would work with staff over the course of the next month and come back with a reimagined plan to see these charging stations be put forward in the town in a way that makes sense, and in a way that we can engage a partner we have a mutually beneficial relationship with. So that would be my motion, sir.
I'll second.
Discussion, seeing, Councilwoman Ron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate Councilmember Fernandez's points. For me, I hate to see staff continue to spin their wheels over this. I know that we've had multiple discussions regarding electric vehicle charging stations, and I do know that there is a movement and there is a trend where more individuals are looking to purchase these vehicles and changing the way that they address their personal mobility decisions. And that is exactly what they are. They are personal decisions. It is not a municipal function to fund your electrical charge on your car, just like it is not a municipal function to pump gas into anyone's vehicle. These are personal choices. Individuals have charging stations at their homes, as well as the private sector will install these charging stations when it is financially feasible for them to benefit, right? Because if there is no cost benefit, that is why we haven't found a partner to do this, because there is no cost benefit. If it was cost beneficial to any company, we would have had a long line of people. We're giving them free real estate to install these stations. It's just not cost beneficial. So the same way that they've made the decision to not participate because it's not going to bear any fruit to them, it doesn't to us either. So I'm not comfortable putting any municipal dollars into something that is to benefit an individual that has made a personal choice to purchase an electric vehicle. How you charge your vehicle is no different than how I pump gas into mine. It is a personal choice. So if in the future councils decide to, change our fleet of vehicles into, electric vehicles, which perhaps a future council will decide to do that, then at that point, we would have charging stations for our electric vehicles, but not just for the for the public to come in and charge their personal vehicles. So I do know that there's a movement, and I don't, it kind of irks me sometimes when I am categorized as someone that's not forward thinking or not with the times. I just don't think that this is a municipal function. I think it's a private matter, and individuals. I haven't had one person in the town that owns an electric vehicle tell me that they're upset because we don't have a charging station here at City Hall. So they are all, charging their vehicles however they see fit, wherever they can, mostly at home. And I think that works just fine. I don't know why other municipalities are doing it. If they have their own vehicles, or if they have a mechanism by which they can recover the cost, that's a different story, right? If we can install a mechanism to recover costs, then that would be different. But for me, I hate to see staff continue to work on something that just doesn't seem to be desirable at this point. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, my only caveat, I already put it on the record, and the reason I'll be supporting it, and it's less so about having a public charging station here. I don't agree with that, but there are communities that might benefit from using some of the public funds that we have available through the matching grant program. Again, the older condominium communities might be something that may be interested, just again, to serve some of the customers that, and I agree with Councilwoman Rano, it's a personal choice, right? Your condominium doesn't allow you to kind of charge your station there. You shouldn't buy an electric vehicle, but I can see some value in maybe exploring the idea. Again, this is just an exploration of a process. I don't want any more staff resources being put into this endeavor of trying to lure individuals, but if there's something available within our present infrastructure, I definitely think it's something that should be visited. And if you put your effort into it and bring something positive that maybe is that P3, that holy grail that we've been looking, although we haven't been successful in finding it, giving it one last shot through this process might be an opportunity. So I'm not ready to put it to bet 100%. I want to give Councilman Garcia, who has been a passionate advocate of this, and maybe just thinking of it in a different way through a neighborhood matching grant, process the opportunity. If it doesn't flesh out, I'm okay putting this idea to rest as well.
Got it. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
There's one opposed, Madam Clerk. The motion passes. We're on to the next item, monthly infrastructure report. Director Santos.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. So as usual, I'll go highlight several projects. If at any moment you have a question, just feel free to interrupt me and we'll proceed. First project I'll highlight is the Safe Routes to School project. We're currently in the closeout phase of this project. If you had a chance to drive through the area, you'll see there's new striping, new ramps, and a new crosswalk at 167 and 79th Avenue.
Director
Yeah,
Santos.
real
Yeah.
quick, and I think all three of us are on the same page. I keep getting emails, people that are upset about the ADA railings, because I think the part where people could fall into
The drain.
Yeah. Why are people so upset? Like, I want to understand this better. Why is it there? Why did you guys put it? Why is it needed?
So that was a requirement that came in through the design phase. It was brought up that the drop off from the edge of the sidewalk, there's a certain distance from there was exceeded the requirement for, or became a drop off. For that reason, the engineer of record recommended placing a standard railing that is used in.
The reason why we've been getting emails is because they're ugly. Like it took away, you know, the very polished look of the perimeter walls in Royal Oaks that looked like a very upscale residential community. Now you have this ugly silver railing that looks like a commercial shopping center. I mean, it really looks horrendous. I had not seen them. I had someone call me the minute that they went up. They really are an eyesore. And these are things that they're unintended consequences sometimes of these projects. I had no idea that, you know, to me, it was a new sidewalk and that was it. I don't know if any of you have had an opportunity to see them, but they are an eyesore.
I have seen it, and to the councilwoman point, it's just the aesthetic. It doesn't appear from a visual perspective that it fits, although it functions very, very well. It's a railing. It keeps you from falling on it. So some of the things that I was thinking of, can other things be substituted? Can a bench structure, something else? Can the road be graded properly so there's not a drop off? What are the alternatives? Because we have seen, again, the Safe Routes to School that happened here on the east side. If we didn't mitigate what was going to happen to those trees, along with the trees being chopped down, our heads would have rolled also in the streets, because it took some engineering, right? It took some ways to look at alternatives. You know, can we, I think what we did was cutouts of the sidewalk because the project called for it, right? And we had to, but I know we were able to re-engineer it, to use that term. Can something else be put other than those railings?
So that's something that we can evaluate after we close out. And the reason I say after is we're currently in the closeout procedure. Any design changes will just elongate the project a significant amount of time. For us to do that, we will work with our engineers, make sure that we still meet criteria with the removal for it to be a safe condition.
When did we find out that those railings were going to be installed? Were they part of the original design?
That was between 30 and 60%.
Okay, so that at some point should have come back to this council as a design change, something that we perhaps could have addressed or mitigated in some
It wasn't a
fashion.
design change. It was something that, you know, it was part of, you know, like Omar said, it was done, you know, during design. So when he says 30 to 60%, that doesn't mean that the project that the only thing that
I
has,
understood that when the project was completed, 30 to 60%.
no, it wasn't completed. It was designed. Yeah, so
Okay.
during the 30 to 60% of the design is when they determined that in order to mitigate that drop off, they had to put something in the railing was what the designer recommended. But what Omar, I think, is proffering is let's finish this project. Let's get it closed out. It's grant based, I think, an FDOT grant, right? Yeah. So let's get it and then let him work with the designers on what other alternatives can be done so that there is to minimize the drop off or mitigate the drop off in some other way that's not the railing.
Okay, so I mean, as long as I have a commitment that that's going to happen and that the railings aren't going to stay in place, because I would hate, you know, for the residents that live there, right? The aesthetics is significantly different. And that's a decision that we made here, obviously a decision without that information. To me, it was a Safe Routes to School project. It was strict sidewalks. And I had no idea that was going to be part of the design. It hasn't been in the other projects that we've done, in the other Safe Routes to School projects. So I understand and I feel for the residents of the area that now aren't happy with the way that it looks. So as long as we have a commitment
that is going to be mitigated
Yeah,
at some point in the
We'll,
future.
we'll work with the designers and find some other way to mitigate that.
So Omar, just understanding to Councilwoman Ronald's point, just understanding the process a little bit better, maybe for the folks watching at home. When we approve, correct me if I'm wrong, do we approve design first, then we go out with construction
Yes.
bid? So when we voted on the construction for this, it was already known, we didn't know, but it was already known that those railings were gonna go up there.
Correct.
That's when it should have been told. Got it. Okay, no problem. Understood. Proceed.
Okay. We got the 59th Avenue project next, but we also have the report as part of the attorney's report, so I'll defer that until then.
Yeah, maybe that's where in the memo, if stuff like that should go into the memo.
The other two projects for roadway, we have Park West pedestrian bicycle improvement and the Fairway Drive lanes and crosswalk improvements that are currently in design. That's it for those. We have the Canal Bank Civilization Phase 3 project that we should be issuing out for bid solicitation soon. In our bond projects, I want to highlight the Royal Oak 6 and Royal Oaks First projects. Those are in construction. Royal Oak 6 is approaching the final phases and restoration, and that's going well. And Royal Oaks First, here says 40, but I think at this point we're past the 50% construction.
Omar, real quick question. With regards to the drainage improvement projects that have been completed, we've had heavy rain events. It seems like we've been having heavy rain events almost yearly now. And we get the pictures, eventually the water does recede, but I mean, the water does get pretty high. You said you were going to cover something, or you have that on the?
No, I have that as one of my notes to discuss, but I'll discuss it now.
Okay, all right.
So 2 weekends ago, we did receive quite a bit of rain. Before the few days before, we got intense rains, and then I think it was on that Saturday that we just got that, what I call it, is a good amount of intensity in a short period of time that did flood, I would say, the majority of west side of Miami Lakes. I actually drove the town personally on Saturday right after the rain subsided. So we had different levels of performance. One of the neighborhoods that I started was Lake Glencairn. There, it's an older system, so directly after the storm, about 30 minutes to an hour, it was still quite flooded, and that's something we noted for future. I also went and visited the West Lakes. It was one of the best performing. Something to point out there in West Lakes is the one that we have the most progress as far as completed projects that are interconnected. I also visited Royal Oaks, and some of the reason completed projects that are isolated, they don't have that interconnectivity that we have in West Lakes yet. And yes, I did see flooding. Some of that may be attributed to inlet that were covered by leaf debris. I wasn't able to witness that at the moment. I didn't get off my truck, but in the past, in the areas that I observed, that was something that we did see during the day, that the leaf debris covers the inlets. And it all depends on the canopy and what time of the year we're in, which attributes to that. I did see really good performance compared to the area around the Northwest 83rd Plate South, the one of the first ones we did in the area. It was dry when I drove through there, which was about an hour and a half after the storm. So that showed a very good sign. As we continue to building more on the infrastructure and connecting these systems, we'll see overall improvement. But yes, the systems are designed to withhold a certain amount of water in a certain amount of period of rainfall. And part of that calculation does account for flooding of a certain level, and then the water will recede after hours or depending on the location.
Are all the systems performing to how they were engineered to perform? Are they meeting the expectations, exceeding the expectations, or performing under the expectations?
So far, minus the ones that we have observed getting clogged by the leaf debris. Yes, we expect the water to recede within a certain amount of time. And most of them, we've been seeing it in less than an hour or about an hour to 2 hours that the areas are dry.
What's that time that you guys engineered the system to work into?
I
You
would
said
have
between
to-
an
I would have
hour?
to look to a specific drainage study.
Because I think
Drainage
that's
report.
something that we might consider for future for public education, right? Because I get the pictures, right? Horrendous pictures. It might have just been the moment after the rain event. Because by the time you guys go out there and you check and then, the water receded. So maybe it's again, I think the person from GT Home says, you have to set the expectation, right? You have a torrential downpour. You can't expect that your yard's going to be dry in 15 minutes. The expectation has to be, well, check it again in 2 hours. Is that something maybe we can do through communications? So you have to do something to set the level of expectation, because I'm getting the irate pictures, and I live here on the east side, right? So when that means they already went through all our players on the west side, right? They went through the 4 council members that live there, and they're reaching out to us. It's because they're maybe the level of expectation. I thought it was a performance issue.
So I did mention, I don't remember right now off the back from memory, so I'm not gonna say the numbers, but several months ago in April we had a similar rain event, and I believe it was Council Member Dieguez who asked that. So I did mention those goals for performance of the system that were established through our stormwater master plan when it was the revision 3. But I can share that through the manager, and then we'll talk about some education.
Yeah,
campaign.
and my concern that at least the one that came to me, which was the one that I shared with the manager, was one resident saying it's worse now than it was before. So that was my concern, and the manager reassured me that the systems are working how they were intended to work.
There's one section, I believe in Royal Oaks, that one street has been done, but it is supposed to be connected to another street that's in the process of being done now. So that system won't fully function until the other connection is attached to it. But piggybacking on that, Omar, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we did our stormwater plan, I remember the engineers explaining that the systems are designed for certain rainfall events.
Yes.
They're not designed for these epic rainfalls. In order for you to design a system that would capture all of that water, it would be ginormous, right? So our system is designed to capture a certain amount of rainfall. Anytime that we receive rain that exceeds that, the system will not perform because it's not designed that way. But it's not financially feasible to design a system that will capture any type of rain event, no matter how much water
Not
falls.
just financially, but also you have limitations.
The capacity
We're in a built environment, so the area that we have, it is
is limited. Right. So that's what I've been trying to explain to individuals to kind of, measure their expectations properly, right? If it rains every afternoon here during the entire summer and it's fine, and one day you flooded because we got 10 inches of rain, the systems are not designed to absorb that amount of rain. So it's not that they're not performing. It's just that that act of nature is unmanageable.
And it's also the cumulative effect, the water table, if you have day after day after day of rain and the system is handling, then you get that finally that on the 10th day, that huge hit. Now it's going to take a little extra, an hour or two for it to be able to drain.
But I remember when, like, neighborhood improvement committee, right? When the lakes were having algae blooms, right? Our expectation as a community is we don't want algae blooms. They went and had a public education campaign, right? They said, look, these are ways that you can mitigate algae blooms, right? Keep, these things out of the water. Maybe it's something similar we need to do, hey, make sure your drains are flowing, make sure you don't have debris on them. You're not checking, especially, and we don't have leaf drop now, right? When leaf drop season hits, and I know what you're talking about, all that goes down the drain, you're going to have less performance. So maybe it's something where we can ask neighborhood improvement or somehow incorporate into your departments. I know it's not the public work side, but an educational component, an awareness component, a communication component, saying, hey, this is one way that we can help keep our drains free and clear and help the performance of the system.
Yes.
Through the chair. No.
Yeah. So I was gonna mention when I was a member of the neighborhood improvement committee, I know we had a campaign, but it had more to do with preventing pollution in the drains and educating residents on not dumping certain things in the valley gutters and near the drains and things like that. It touched upon, not blowing, lawn clipping debris and things like that, but it was more focused on the pollution side of it. So yeah, maybe maybe an education campaign like that would work. I think also incorporating managing those expectations of, there's going to be water on the road when it rains hard, right? The purpose of these drainage improvements is to get the water off the road in a timely manner and to make sure that the water recedes quickly, right? So, and one of the other things that I think is important. So the last rain event that I live on Glencairn Lane, right? So it became Lake Glencairn. It's not otherwise a lake. It's just, the street became a lake. One of the things that day it rained about what it rained a day before, 2 days before. It was a similar rainfall event, but the flooding was much, much worse. And when I went back the next morning, I wake up and I start reading the news and I start reading about the king tide. And so apparently there was a king tide the day before. And so I think that might play more of a role in it than we realize, because I know the end goal of all of this water, once we drain it off the streets, is in most parts that it drains into an outfall and out to the canals. Well, when there's an expected king tide and events like that, the canals are usually swell up. They usually close the gates to prevent saltwater intrusion. So I think maybe an educational campaign to explain some of that in layman's terms would help, manage the expectations and for everybody to understand that the expectation is that the water recede within a timely manner and gets managed. I don't think anybody's expecting, or maybe people don't realize that the expectation is to not see water at all.
Director Santos, now that the GT Homes talked about that the lake is going to be owned by them in Royal Oaks, have you reached out to them to talk about the outfall again?
Yes, but based on the condition of being a private lake shared by owners, that has not moved forward.
All right. Thank you, Director Santos. Any other questions of Director Santos? If not, we appreciate all your.
Real quick through the chair to the director. Director, the new projects that experience high flooding, were they outfalls or were they French drain?
French drains and isolated systems.
And isolated systems.
So they're
Okay.
not at the moment, those are not connected to, for example, West Lakes, that a lot of them are already connected to each other.
Yeah. Many city mayors have talked to me about the county's push to not mitigate outfalls. To try to keep Biscayne Bay clean. However, and the fastest way to get the most water out of any flood is outfall. So through the chair to the town manager, are we pushing back a little bit on the county, making sure that our future projects, if they're supposed to be outfalls, are going to stay outfalls and not move to French drains?
Yeah, I mean, Omar can probably talk better to it. There's one project up in the northwest corner or northwest section of Miami Lakes, west of 87th Avenue, that we're working with Dade County to try and get a outfall secured. In fact, but some of that has to do with if you remember correctly from the discussion on the legislative priorities with the canal bank, right?
Mhm.
Because we've secured the canal bank on the south side of the canal and the west side of the canal, but the east side of the canal running up 77th Court and the north side of the canal on 170th is still at a different level. So we're going to have to secure that over time. The project that Omar's working on and his staff is working on in the northwest corner of Miami Lakes, we've left the apparatus ready to put a outfall, but we can't do it until the canal bank in that stretch from 87th Avenue West. Once that canal bank is stabilized and elevated, then we can work towards getting an outfall for that section. And that's something that that whole canal is going to have to be stabilized little by little to be able to do that.
No,
I don't know if that makes sense.
yeah, and of course, a quick question, the town attorney, kind of made a point and to see if it's true. If the water drains within 45 minutes to an hour, it's not considered flooding. Is that, what do you, where is, I mean, I know it's water in front of the streets, but what do we consider technically flooding? It stays 24 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours,
Well,
standing water?
It floods, right? But then you're looking at the duration
Yeah.
and the impact to just the daily life. So if you're talking about a 1 hour event of flooding, most people by that time they have gotten their things ready and moved out quickly. If you're talking about days, then it's a longer impact. So as far as did it flood? Yes. We're just talking about how long did that last? Did that condition last?
Okay.
And then also, was it just for the roadway? And our design does account for an amount of flooding, let's say at crown or roadway, the middle, 6 inches above crown or 12 inches above crown, depending on the intensity of the design storm event, which I'll share that through the manager. Or are we anticipating a finished floor, which most of our designs, our goal is to protect that, so it doesn't go into that level.
It seems that every year around September, October, we're having these huge flood events.
Yep. It's when the ground is the most saturated.
Most saturated. So keeping that in mind, are we adjusting the back truck, cleaning the are we doing what we can?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be the best thing. Thank you so much, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, Director Santos. We're moving on to monthly police report. Town Commander Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. Jose Gonzalez, your town commander with the September police report. For crime in September, we saw a significant reduction. Our residential burglaries were down 50% compared to last year. The vehicle burglaries were down 31%. Auto theft was down 9%. And just your average thefts were down 60%. We participated in 4 events in September. We assisted with the 9/11 remembrance ceremony, the culinary bike tour, which was a great event, the bike rodeo, and the mayor's gala. We also added the curfew security detail off duties to Main Street on Sundays now, to include Sundays. So now it's Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. So things have been going smooth there. For the most part, everything's working nice and smooth. Traffic is holding steady. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Questions of the town commander?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Good night. He got it this month.
Thank you, Gonzo. We're on to report on AD at Parks. Director Bajdon.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Essentially, this item comes to you after it was deferred at the last council meeting. And actually, since then, the last item that I presented had a timeline that had the 2 locations at our 2 athletic sites for outdoor AED placement was set to be completed by March based off of the sourcing and partnership with the Brianna Vergara Foundation. However, since that last meeting, the Brianna Vergara Foundation, as they always do, have worked diligently and actually expedited and already produced both AEDs for us. So we took ownership of them last week. We are now working with the outdoor cabinet company to place that order. They're currently on back order. We are expected to have it installed by mid-December, the latest. And these new cabinets will be working in conjunction with 911, where in order to access it, you have to actually place the 911 call. They'll give you an access code to enter to the AED. That way, it's both informing the emergency responders as well as protecting the actual unit itself from being opened by any other individual. So some good news to hear of things moving faster rather than slower. And that's all I have on this item.
Thank you, Director. Director, and I know that you already know that there was a gentleman that was suffering from chest pains at the park during opening day. The AED was not deployed, but I know fire rescue services came out there. The gentleman, I believe, survived.
He did.
What I believe they told me was a heart attack.
Yeah.
In that circumstance, again, I know you had not gotten the items out there. The items, I don't think, may have been deployed. I don't think it's a situation where an AED would have been needed to be deployed. It would have not discharged because the gentleman never lost his heartbeat. But being that it was a wake-up call, so to speak, to make sure, and I know that's something that may have motivated this item being moved along sooner rather than later. Something that you just said in your report concerned me. They're on back order.
The cabinets.
The cabinets, meaning that they're not going to be deployed outside. Did they give you a timeline when they're going to be available?
They're expecting within 2 weeks for the back order to be brought up to pace. And then from then it's another 2 weeks for them to be shipped out.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying probably mid-December.
Okay. And I'm comfortable another 28 days.
Any chance we're talking to them now daily almost, any chance that they are able to fill their orders quicker, by all means, we're trying to expedite.
Yeah, no, and maybe another company that has that very specialized product. I know it's something that's not very, I had never even heard of that solution until you came back with it, and it checks all the boxes. It can be deployed outside. It's secure. Somebody's not going to break in. I just didn't know that caveat that we're 28 days out, but the sooner the better. And I'm comfortable with an additional 28 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Let's make sure we, once that's out there, we do some social media push and so people can know they're out there. There's a report from Councilman Collazo up next.
It's not a report from me, actually. It's a report that came up during the budget cycle, where we were exploring the idea of having LPRs, maybe piggybacking to what some of the communities were doing. Since the budget process, the manager relayed an email to us saying that the system that the homeowners associations are plugged into are different than the LPR systems that the major would need. And I think I stole all your thunder.
Yeah. Well said. I reported to you already by email, but I did commit that I would report it here verbally. So local governments don't qualify for that financing model that the HOAs and community groups and so forth and NSDs qualify for. So
that genius idea went by the wayside.
Yep.
And to that point, did John ever figure out the issue at section 1 with the LPR there?
Regards to?
Which issue?
It's been in purgatory for like 2 years.
It is currently in town hall. The unit's in town hall right now, and we're just waiting on installation dates.
You don't consider town hall purgatory, do you?
I consider some of your offices purgatory. Depends what's being discussed. So we're on to the next item, which is Garcia's item, report on civil penalties for catalytic converter robberies.
Good evening, Council. Lorenzo Cobia, Deputy Town Attorney. The council member Garcia asked us to look into catalytic converters and see what the town could do. Coincidentally, in this past legislative session, the Florida legislature passed Florida Statute 86142, Catalytic Converter Anti-Theft Act. And this act makes it a crime to up to a felony of the 3rd degree if someone is caught with a stolen catalytic converter or dealing in stolen catalytic converters. Given this information, it seems as though whatever we would pass is already being preempted by Florida law and is already being can be prosecuted by our police department. So that's what I have to report back.
Councilman Garcia.
I want to thank you in the office for your office for taking a look at this. Yeah, it looks like the state has stepped up and provided penalties for that. It's just something that's really I was a personal victim to this. That's why I brought it up. And it takes literally minutes for them to cut that out. And so I just wanted to see if the town could do anything about it. So yeah, so if the county is doing, I mean, if the state has made it more, more penalties for that, I just want to see if there's anything we can do. But again, the state is taking care of that for us. just keep a lookout, maybe some education when it comes to, you know, your vehicle, I guess. There's not much you can do, honestly, guys. It's crazy. If there's anything we can do as a town to educate our residents, you know, I'm all for that. But thank you so much for looking into what we can do about this.
The next item has my name on it, but I would like to withdraw that.
Okay.
It says Sid, so I'm withdrawing it.
Okay. I'm just gonna give you a report.
But it says my name on
I didn't put it there.
it. I'm not in favor of the report, but okay.
And just, yeah, I don't know how it got there. It wasn't meant for, it's my report.
I'm withdrawing.
Listen, I've got to ask for an executive session for Thursday morning at 9 a.m. We'll discuss it more then. We're bringing this to a head as quickly as humanly possible. And I believe after that meeting, we'll have something for you to vote on sooner rather than later, and hopefully put this behind us and get this done.
Remind me, executive session, we need quorum in the two.
Yes.
You need a vote for this?
No, we don't need to
Wanna
vote.
just for the record, I will not be attending. I am against certain aspects of this moving forward. I am not in favor of the strategic process. There's unreconcilable differences on this project, so I am do not count on my support on this project going forward. I will not be supporting this any longer. I support the idea. I don't support the strategic position overall. So I will not be supporting this going forward.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Attorney? You have the meeting on Thursday. We'll see you all in November. This meeting's adjourned. Have a good night.